A magic projector flares to life as an entire management team bows low in deep apology. Our boy stands front and center begging forgiveness for delaying the grand opening of their premier southern resort. He kicks off a high-stakes promo pitch highlighting sunny private beaches, luxurious swimming pools, and wild coral sea adventures with giant turtles. Flames erupt from the wok as the reincarnated nutritionist unleashes his true strategy, an unmatched feast of mouth-watering spicy delicacies. You haven't lived until you've tried this food. He showcases premium dwarven porcelain tea sets, individually hand-painted by master artisans to deliver ultimate luxury. Street festivals rage non-stop with exotic dancers, live music, and packed crowds celebrating across the city layout. The ambitious mastermind slams the table with dollar signs flashing in his eyes. With a presentation this insane, won't the money just come rolling in? The exhausted crew collapses across the table after endless retakes, furious over being worked to the bone without food. Is this a crazy level of disrespect? Their energy is completely drained. That should have solved their complaints. Instead, our boy grins and unveils his true reward: steaming ginseng chicken soup packed with stamina-restoring nutrients. Naturally, every single dish gets cleaned out in seconds. See, a few years ago, his situation was far darker. He sat stranded alone inside an unforgiving forest, totally helpless. Ominous thugs cornered him under the moonlight, demanding to know how a defenseless kid wandered into their territory. He deadpans that he simply walked. The bandit leader licks his lips with a sinister grin, mocking what a weak boy could even do to survive here, but his target stays dead silent. Can modern science save him? A heavy stainless steel pot slams onto the dirt with violent force. Dominic shouts for everyone to eat, triggering an immediate stampede across the hills. A horde of ravenous villagers charges toward his wagon like wild beasts. Can a chef control wild mercenaries? One furious roar from our boy instantly forces the rowdy crowd into a perfect single-file line. He dishes out hot meals to the hungry crew, receiving pure praise. Honestly, I'd line up for his food too. Dominic manages lunch for Evergreen, a tiny coastal village founded by retired mercenaries. Though intimidating, they are the honest folks who took him in. Village head Kalan rescued him when he was stranded as a helpless refugee. When the rest of the world turned its back, these warriors gave him shelter. For an entire year, our brilliant nutritionist has repaid their generosity by fueling the village with his master culinary creations. Dominic's rich cream soup instantly wins over the retired warriors. He crafts a fully balanced meal packed with carbs, protein, and fat for the hardworking fishermen. Fresh carrots, mushrooms, and onions are sautéed before pouring in rich milk and a flour roux, simmering perfection. The hot meal thaws out their frozen bodies after grueling hours on the water. Who could resist real comfort food? Next comes the main event, homemade grilled sausage loaded with fat. The meat-obsessed old lord takes one bite, grinning with satisfaction. Our boy grins wickedly, knowing some food just needs to be greasy. He spent endless trials perfecting this lucrative recipe. Suddenly, Dominic catches the chief sneaking around, caught red-handed. Kalan tries skipping his salad, stubbornly claiming a lion does not eat grass. The young nutritionist explodes, scolding the old veteran for picking food like a child. Honestly, I can't blame him for sticking to his past life habits. See, in his past life, our boy worked as a professional nutritionist named Han Jungmin, but retaining modern knowledge didn't change his reality as a helpless refugee. Out of nowhere, the old chief casually asked Dominic to take over his title. He drops the bomb that our boy is now the village head. Dominic completely loses his mind. Are you really just going to slide that in like a snake? A local warrior exposes the truth. The regional council requires leaders to be literate, but their stubborn chief refuses to learn. Callan boasts without shame, claiming a lion doesn't need to read. Our young strategist tells him to just become a full-blown beast then. Giving in, our boy assumes he has weeks to prepare. Sounds simple, right? Kalan reveals he leaves the day after tomorrow. The old lord flees before Dominic can complain. Nice payback, chief. 2 days later, Dominic arrives at the lord's castle for the regional summit. The leaders gather to coordinate birthday gifts for the former lord. The meeting quickly devolves into chaos as delegates shout ridiculous offers of livestock. What an unproductive circus. Dominic notes rumors that the secluded former lord is secretly pursuing sword mastery. A maid interrupts the madness to announce lunch. Our boy perks up instantly. He can finally taste the castle's high-end noble cuisine. He follows the group, eager to study their spices and secretly steal recipes. One look inside leaves him completely blown away. An extravagant feast covers the entire table. He samples the savory bread baked from premium flour. If you ask me, this looks top tier. Next, he dives into a rich seafood stew brimming with fresh shrimp and clams. But that is when everything changes. The real star of the feast is sizzling right before his eyes. Our boy eagerly accepts a plate of grilled tripe, praising the master prep work. The rich meat sizzles over hot flames. The head chef boasts with pride over his butcher skills. Our sharp strategist quickly asks if the former lord shares this massive appetite for meat. The chef inquires what tribute Evergreen brought for the former lord's birthday. Dominic admits every high-tier meat option was already taken. The chef leans in with inside advice, offer alcohol instead. He reveals the former lord is a notorious heavy drinker who hoards fine barrels. If you ask me, free food makes any advice sweeter. Our young chief happily accepts extra helpings, considering the gift problem officially solved. That should have solved the problem. Instead, our boy mutters that such a greasy diet will trigger painful gout. The chef has no idea what that means. Dominic gets carried away lecturing on purines and uric acid, warning about severe health risks. The head chef shuts him down, dismissing modern science as fake snake oil. Can our boy break his habit of over-explaining? Walking down the grand hallway alone, he curses his past life impulse. That should have solved his problems. Instead, an attacker grabs him from behind under a dark hood. Getting kidnapped inside the Lord's castle? Hooded operatives knock him unconscious, slinging his body over their shoulders to haul him through the private wings. Dominic gasps awake, staring up at an imposing bearded lord draped in heavy beast furs. The master of the castle politely apologizes for his guards' ruthless kidnapping tactics. Tied helplessly to a chair, our boy laughs off the offense to stay breathing. Two armed enforcers grip their hilts, ready to strike if he makes one false move. When our boy asks who is speaking, the guard instantly screams in outrage, but the imposing master winces in agony, growling, "Stop yelling, it makes my bones vibrate." That should have solved the problem. Instead, he introduces himself as Theodore Sinclair, the former lord. The young chief shouts in shock, only for the old ruler to wince from the loud noise. Dominic connects the dots, asking out loud, could it really be gout? The former lord nods solemnly, convinced an enemy secretly cast a deadly curse upon him. The meat-obsessed old lord leans in, convinced an enemy targeted him with dark magic. Are you familiar with this curse? He demands, claiming someone inflicted him with gout. Our boy stands frozen. Could it really be magic? What kind of nonsense is this? Our clever nutritionist knows gout is no curse. It is uric acid overload from 3 greasy meals a day and heavy drinking. But speaking that truth could get him executed. That should have ended the conversation. Instead, he spots an opening. Look at those trembling hands. The former lord is at his wit's end, desperately clutching at straws to end the pain. He isn't seeking blood, he is begging for help. Honestly, I'd be sweating too. Our boy takes charge of the room. He asks if the agony strikes suddenly at night, swelling the toes until even the softest breeze feels unbearable. The noble sits stunned. Every symptom lands with deadly precision. Sweat drips down the old warrior's face. Am I accurate? The young chef presses. The room goes dead silent. He hit the bullseye. The noble nods helplessly, confirming every word, but that is when everything changes. Our boy looks him dead in the eye and delivers the verdict. Former lord, this is not a curse. It is an illness known as gout. The noble stares in disbelief. Not a curse? Our boy explains that years of eating rich, greasy food cause toxic waste to build up inside his joints. But why now? Simple. Aging slowed his metabolism down. When the young chef admits he is not an actual physician, the old lord loses his composure. How could a humble cook possess such medical knowledge? Our boy sees his opening. He invents a legendary mentor who taught him that food and medicine share the exact same source. He spins a grand tale of 5 essential energies balancing body and mind. Honestly, I love watching him pull nonsense out of thin air. The old warrior immediately mistakes this ancient philosophy for high-level mana theory. Tears stream down the chef's face as he names his fictional master Heo-jun. The performance is pure gold. Deeply moved, the noble pats his shoulder, convinced this legendary mentor was a sacred elf. Behind his back, our clever liar clenches his fists in victory. The trap is sprung. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. The noble leans in with dark aura, commanding the boy to personally manage his daily diet. One mistake could cost him his head. Our boy freezes on the spot. Managing a hospital canteen in his past life was easy enough, but planning a custom diet for high nobility? One wrong ingredient means execution. He paces the room frantically, biting his thumb as he tries to map out a strict recovery plan. Greasy meats and heavy liquor must be banned immediately. He opens the door to inspect the kitchen ingredients, but a lurking figure in the hallway scares the living daylights out of him. Standing watch is Sir Ian Hanover, an elite knight of House Sinclair. Our clever nutritionist asks to consult the private physician and kitchen staff to gather vital medical records. The knight's response? Out of the question. Ian shuts him down cold. He claims a total outsider has zero business meddling in private noble affairs, ordering him to just hand over a menu to the cooks. Fine by our boy. If anything goes wrong, the knight takes the fall. Honestly, I can't blame the guard's intense suspicion. As our boy steps away, Ian watches him with dark doubt, utterly unconvinced that simple food could ever cure a severe physical ailment. Our clever nutritionist refuses to cower before authority. He stands his ground and challenges Sir Ian, arguing that for a sick man, true nourishment is far more than just basic food. Can diet really cure what magic couldn't? Ian admits the logic sounds reasonable, but insists that food cannot serve as clinical medicine. When our boy boldly asks the knight not to interfere with the former lord's orders, Ian scoffs at his sheer insolence. Stepping away with a smug grin, the young chef attempts to make a grand exit. But that is when everything changes. Ian abruptly blocks his path, revealing that the lost fool was walking in the completely wrong direction. Reaching the actual kitchen, our boy immediately hits another obstacle. The head chef turns around in disbelief, utterly shocked that the young scammer survived his terrifying encounter with the noble lord. The moment our boy reveals he has been appointed to manage the lord's daily menu, the head chef snaps. Honestly, I'd panic too if a random outsider threatened my job. The enraged veteran violently grabs him by the collar, demanding answers. The enraged head chef demands to know if this insolent newcomer is supposed to be his junior. Our boy sweat drops, quietly nodding along. Kitchen hierarchy is absolute. He inspects the high-grade produce and breaks down his plan. He is not discarding bad food, but removing items that clash with the former lord's specific condition. Can diet truly be customized like armor? Our boy adapts his pitch to fantasy terms. Just as knights align with specific aura types, crops absorbing mana interact with each body differently. The clever logic instantly sways the room. The head chef buys the lie completely. Flashing a confident thumbs up, our clever strategist praises his quick grasp. Honestly, repackaging basic science's high mana theory is pure genius. Their medical knowledge is totally ancient. Now for vital medical history, he questions Sir Ian about the noble's former lifestyle. The knight admits the old lord was a legendary vanguard commander who constantly pushed his physical limits in battle. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. The veteran cook reveals that despite retiring from combat, the old warrior never cut down his massive daily meat portions. That metabolic disaster explains everything. Sir Ian reveals the retired commander eats massive portions of red meat and consumes even more whenever he feels sick. Our boy stares in total disbelief. That isn't treatment, it is pure poison. Our boy nearly loses his mind. The head chef calmly defends the practice, claiming gorging on rich flesh builds vitality against disease. Is this really their idea of medicine? Honestly, these fantasy health beliefs are terrifying. He clutches his head in utter frustration. Constant battle once burned off those extreme calories. But in retirement, that exact same routine is destroying his body from the inside out. It is time to take control. He bans red meat, heavy seafood, and all liquor immediately. The head chef panics in despair, terrified the old warrior will execute them for serving simple vegetables. Grabbing the veteran cook by the hands as our young strategist locks eyes with intense resolve. You must rely upon my judgment, he commands. My survival relies upon this as well. Night falls over the mansion under a heavy downpour. The battle plan is set, the stakes are lethal, and one wrong dish could end everything. Can simple food truly work a miracle? Morning arrives at the mansion as the newly customized dish is served right before the retired commander. Can simple vegetables truly satisfy a fierce war hero? The old warrior stares down in total bewilderment. This is intended to be my meal, he gasps, utterly horrified by the change. Inside the grand mansion, dinner begins with immediate outrage. The meat-obsessed old lord stares down at his plate, unable to comprehend the sight before him. Where is the heavy steak? Where is the hard liquor? This is a crazy level of disrespect for a man who demands feast over foliage. Instead of mountain heaps of grease, vibrant salads and aromatic bowls line the table. His children are immediately captivated by the vivid colors, marveling at how fresh everything looks. Reluctantly, the old lord picks up his glass and takes a cautious sip, expecting alcohol only to taste tart pomegranate. That sour kick instantly sparks his appetite. What started as angry doubt turns into genuine surprise, forcing him to admit the drink is actually incredible. If he doesn't want it, I certainly do. But convincing a stubborn veteran requires more than just fruit juice. Next comes a steaming bowl of wild mushroom soup, sautéed in olive oil and finished with rich cream. Our boy stands tall, confidently presenting his creation and inviting the host to taste it. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Everything hinges on this single bite. The old lord lifts the spoon and takes a taste. Boom. His eyes widen in complete astonishment as rich flavors crash over him like a tidal wave. He begins shaking where he sits, leaving his children screaming in sheer panic as his true reaction unfolds. The head chef freaks out, convinced our boy just poisoned his master. But the meat-obsessed old lord cuts through the sudden panic with a stern command, demanding absolute silence before delivering his verdict. Chewing slowly, the old general savors the buttery smooth texture and rich, nutty flavor. He glares across the table and admits the dish isn't bad. Honestly, seeing him surrender his stubborn pride is priceless. Next up, the main course. Our boy claps his hands as maids roll out silver-dome platters. The lord's son and daughter lean forward in pure curiosity. Everything hinges on what lies beneath those shining lids. The old lord lifts his dome, revealing a seared cod steak seasoned with 5 fresh herbs. Steam rises off the perfectly cooked fish, filling the hall with a rich aroma. Can fish really beat heavy meat? He eyes the seafood with intense suspicion before carving straight into it. The knife crackles against a golden, pan-fried crust. He never expected a healthy dish to pack such an aggressive crunch. He shoves a massive piece into his mouth without hesitation. Boom, that outer crust shatters, releasing insanely juicy, tender flakes inside. His mind snaps as the incredible flavor takes over. How is the texture this good? His heavy shoulders shake once more, driving his children into another sudden wave of panic. But as the old lord slumps back, completely stuffed and defeated, our boy just grins. Battle won. The meat-obsessed old lord cleans off every single dish on the table, admitting a lighter meal hits different than heavy meat. Ditching the full vegan plan paid off big time. But clearing his plate doesn't mean our boy is out of the woods just yet. Our boy lets out a heavy sigh of relief, thinking the ordeal is finally over. That should have solved the problem. Instead, the stubborn veteran bursts out laughing and calls over his chief guard, Ian. He remains unconvinced that simple food can actually cure his long-standing ailment. His dark expression returns as he gives a ruthless order. Make sure he doesn't step even one single foot out the door. Before our boy can even react, guards hoist him up and march him off. House arrest hits again. If you ask me, host privileges here are downright terrible. As night falls over the stormy estate, the old lord sits awake in his dark bedchamber. Can a warm meal really overcome years of chronic agony? Every single night, agonizing ankle pain keeps him awake, forcing him to drown the suffering in stiff drinks just to endure the darkness. Refusing to show weakness, he lies back down and prepares for another miserable night. But that is when everything changes. A warm, soothing glow radiates from his feet, quietly dissolving the deep joint pain. His bed of pure hell feels surprisingly comfortable. As the miraculous warmth spreads through his aching joints, the old general floats into a soothing dream. For the first time in decades, he rests peacefully without crippling ankle pain or stomach bloating. The brutal realization hits him hard. His self-destructive, meat-only diet was destroying his health from the inside out. Envisioning fierce lions lying peacefully in green grass, the old lord understands that even ultimate predators require dietary balance. He finally surrenders his stubborn pride, admitting he was far too hard-headed. Sounds like a complete victory for our boy, right? Not quite yet. The next morning, bright sunlight illuminates the mansion garden as a colorful butterfly lands gently on our boy's finger. But wait, why is the young strategist riding in a wheelchair? Since the old lord strictly forbade him from taking a single step outside, he pulled off a brilliant tactical loophole, forcing the chief knight to roll him everywhere. Sir Ian grits his teeth, veins popping on his forehead while hauling the chair across the cobblestone. The elite warrior bursts out in anger, demanding Lil Bro walk on his own 2 feet. If you ask me, seeing a high-ranking knight forced into butler duty is hilarious payback. Our boy instantly snaps right back in pure frustration. A whole week has dragged by since the former lord randomly locked himself away in secluded training, leaving everyone stuck without clearance to head home. With house arrest continuing indefinitely, his temper has officially reached its boiling point. Sir Ian fumes with intense frustration while forced to haul the heavy wheelchair through the estate garden paths. Trying to break the awkward silence, our boy casually inquires about the old lord's secluded training, asking what actually happens during high-level martial breakthroughs. The chief knight explains it completely depends on personal enlightenment. It could wrap up in a few hours or drag on for several agonizing years. Hearing that nightmare scenario, our boy panics. What if he stays locked up in this mansion forever? That should have ruined his week. Instead, our boy uncovers a brilliant tactical loophole. He reminds the knight that since he already handed over the complete dietary schedule to the head chef, keeping him locked up serves no legal purpose. Sir Ian freezes in sheer shock, unable to refute the logic. By that afternoon, official clearance finally arrives. Not only is the young strategist granted full permission to head back home to Evergreen, but the estate promises a heavy monthly payout of pure gold for sending weekly recipes. If you ask me, turning house arrest into a permanent payday is peak finesse. With his freedom finally secured, our boy gets ready to pack up and bounce. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. When Sir Ian steps up carrying packed travel bags, suspicion instantly kicks in. Why is the elite knight holding so much baggage? Sir Ian casually reveals he is traveling straight to Evergreen. Our boy turns back in complete shock as the elite knight delivers his master's final order. He was personally assigned to shadow our strategist in case he tries to bail. Talk about a sneaky old bastard. Our boy finally arrives at the coastal village of Evergreen alongside his blonde companion. Sounds peaceful, right? Not exactly. As they haul their heavy luggage down to the seaside docks, the quiet ocean breeze carries an unmistakably tense atmosphere. Before they can even take a breath, village head Callan spots them and barks out orders. The old man is visibly shocked to see the traveler return alive, but there is zero time for a warm welcome. He immediately commands them to grab gear and help deal with the sudden chaos. Panic completely overtakes the old man's face. He screams out in terror. The devil's hand has appeared in the ocean. That is when everything changes. The chilling declaration leaves both newcomers frozen in utter confusion as alarm bells ring across the coast. A horde of farmer turtles has swarmed the beach to lay eggs. Our lead stands totally out of the loop. If you ask me, expecting him to know every monster is absurd, but his pompous companion snickers, mocking his total ignorance. Kalan breaks down the horrifying threat. The devil's hand is a demonic sea tree cultivated by the turtles that towers 3 times higher than a grown man. It blocks every single fishing vessel from sailing. Worse yet, the aggressive beasts drive away all edible fish, leaving the village to starve. Monster turtles normally avoid human shores, raising massive red flags. So why nest here now? The explanation is pure absurdity. The foolish village head laughs, admitting he got scammed on the land contract years ago. He built this entire village right inside a monster migration route. Is this a joke? Village head Kalan escorts the duo straight up to the highest rocky vantage point along the cliffside. He insists they must see the terrifying magnitude of the oceanic crisis for themselves. Looking down from the edge of the precipice, massive dark thickets of the devil's hand completely blanket the seabed. The blonde knight points out that these lethal sea trees have reached peak maturity. He remains completely unfazed. The pompous knight loses his cool, ordering him to open his eyes and see the dark rot spreading everywhere in the water. But as our brilliant nutritionist studies the underwater leaves, total confusion strikes him. Isn't this just ordinary seaweed? That response makes the snobbish warrior snap immediately. He yells right in his face, "I keep telling you it's the devil's hand. What nonsense are you spouting?" He refuses to accept such blatant disrespect. Dominic completely tunes out the yelling and looks back down at the ocean. Seeing how lushly the crop has grown, his mouth literally begins to water. If you ask me, boiling that into a warm soup would taste incredible. He asks if there is any actual reason why they shouldn't eat it. The unexpected declaration leaves both onlookers stunned. It is literally named the devil's hand. Why would anyone ever think to consume a deadly sea monster? Dominic turns to Khan and offers him a fresh taste test. The old village head eagerly agrees, thrilled to taste our boy's legendary cooking again. That leaves the pretentious knight completely aghast. Have these locals lost their minds? Dominic steps back into his immaculate village kitchen alongside his reluctant companion. The blonde knight condescendingly admits the facility is surprisingly well maintained for such a backwater shore, but this culinary domain belongs strictly to our lead, and he intends to keep it that way. Kalan presents a dried bundle of the devil's hand, convinced he ruined the harvest through poor storage. The old man panics as it crumbles into pieces. Dominic knows better. Dehydrating the monster plant actually concentrates its natural flavors, releasing maximum umami the moment it hits warm water. Our boy rolls up his sleeves to display his skills. He minces garlic with flawless precision before firing up the hearth. Can a dangerous sea monster truly become a high-tier feast? He cranks the hearth to maximum heat and coats the pan in freshly extracted perilla oil. Then he stir-fries dried mussels, minced garlic, and rehydrated seaweed until the pan fills with rich, sizzling aromas. The intoxicating scent hits the snobbish warrior full force. He struggles to maintain his dignified composure, but his maddening hunger betrays him. If you ask me, nobody can resist high-level cooking for long. Dominic catches him sneaking glances and smirks silently. Recreating traditional Korean condiments from scratch in this foreign realm was absolute torture, but the results speak for themselves. Even though village grain reserves are running dangerously low, Dominic decides to be generous with the portion sizes just this once. The knight keeps feigning indifference while staring like a starving hound. Dominic lacks martial strength, but culinary mastery is his ultimate weapon to strike back. He pours the grain straight into the massive boiling cauldron, provoking a sudden panicked yell from the startled warrior. Dominic pours the rice water straight into the soup, triggering an immediate outrage from the warrior. The blonde knight screams at him for defiling food with dirty wastewater. But our boy refuses to back down. He slams back with a complete breakdown of modern culinary science, explaining how rice starch locks in flavor and destroys fishy bitterness. The baffled knight stands totally lost in the complex explanation. Dominic merely sighs, telling him he has spent his entire life living in pure ignorance. Our lead keeps cooking while giving credit where it is due. He acknowledges the arrogant warrior is not like typical snobbish nobles, since he actually respects commoners and treats local elders properly. However, your mindset is far too stiff. Dominic lays out fresh kimchi beside a steaming bowl of rice. A masterclass is underway. He presents the complete spread and urges the stubborn knight to broaden his horizons. The incredible aroma completely paralyzes the warrior's pride. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Old Kalan suddenly bursts back into the room holding a freshly seared monster fish to complete the spread. Dominic warmly welcomes the elder to join them before everything cools off. The blonde knight hesitatingly lifts a single spoonful of the soup. The moment the broth touches his tongue, shock overtakes him. If you ask me, watching a haughty noble breakdown over soup is pure satisfaction. Can a deadly monster plant truly yield such unbelievable flavor? His iron willpower instantly breaks. Damn it, I can't resist. Instincts take complete control as he dumps rice directly into the broth and scarfs down bowl after bowl like a wild beast. Dominic smirks quietly across the table. His culinary dominance is absolute, but their sea monster crisis is far from over. The arrogant warrior completely surrenders his pride to the unbelievable flavor, greedily demanding seconds without hesitation. Old Kalan beams with pure delight as our boy passes around more food. Callan shifts back to their ongoing crisis. Once the knight clears the turtle horde, the elder intends to exterminate every root of the devil's hand. Sounds simple, right? Dominic's smirk widens. Hold on a second. He catches them completely off guard. They just admitted this dreaded sea monster is an absolute delicacy. Our lead challenges their entire plan. Are they really foolish enough to destroy a massive food supply resting right on their shore? Their crisis just turned into an empire's foundation. A heavy trade wagon rolls directly into the quiet territory of Evergreen. Young Anton grumbles about wasting valuable travel time on a broke fishing village, but his grandfather knows better than to judge a book by its cover. Who turns down potential profit? To a modest merchant guild, every single client is an absolute lifeline. You treat every customer like royalty. Anton smiles and nods, taking the old man's harsh lesson to heart. The former village chief greets the traveling merchants with open arms, but he quickly shoves responsibility onto Klon, admitting he handed over the head role to avoid endless administrative headaches. Leadership is a heavy burden. The traders unload 3 heavy sacks of grain onto the grass. Without batting an eye, Kalan agrees to purchase the entire lot. That should have concluded their business. Instead, our boy offers them a hot meal first. Kalan presents bowls of dark, steaming soup to his guests. The travelers stare down in total skepticism at the mysterious black plants floating inside. Is this really safe to digest? Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Anton takes his first bite and his expression instantly shifts. The rich broth delivers an explosive wave of flavor. He desperately shoves his bowl toward his grandfather, begging him to taste this unbelievable creation. The senior trader takes a spoonful, and shock freezes his entire face. This incredible depth of flavor isn't coming from meat. It is all being pulled directly from the black plant. If he doesn't buy this ingredient, I will. He urgently demands to know the true local title of this magical ingredient. The former chief scratches his head and gives him a straight answer. It is called the devil's hand. A spoon clatters to the ground. Hearing that menacing name, Anton immediately shouts that he wants to buy out the entire supply. But the grandfather turns on him in a panic, calling out his name to halt the rash decision. Danger looms near. Anton argues that bizarre monster meat is already a massive fad in the capital, so selling the devil's hand is a guaranteed goldmine. Hearing his grandson's sharp commercial strategy, the old merchant chuckles in full agreement. He hands full control to the boy. That approval is all our boy needs to strike. Kalan steps up with a sinister grin, asking the traveling merchants how much stock they can handle. Evergreen has more than enough inventory. A few days later, near the Lord's castle, a distressed husband wanders through town in heavy despair. His wife has been completely bedridden since giving birth, unable to stomach any food or nurse their newborn child. Tragic consequences lie ahead if her body fails. Suddenly, a rich, savory aroma catches his nose and cuts right through his heavy panic. The scent is far too mouth-watering to ignore. He stops dead in his tracks. He spots Anton standing high on wooden crates, shouting through a loudspeaker to offer free soup samples to the public. The young merchant advertises the Devil's Hand brew as an absolute miracle for post-pregnancy recovery, explaining how sea turtles rely on it after laying eggs. Sounds simple, right? The desperate father purchases a full crate of the marine ingredient without a second thought. He carries it straight home and brews the steaming soup for his wife, strictly following the step-by-step recipe. Honestly, I would have grabbed a bowl for myself. Back in the market square, Anton continues drawing massive crowds by throwing in a free bottle of perilla oil with every purchase. Out of nowhere, the husband charges back into the venue in pure excitement. The miracle dish worked wonders. His wife fully regained her strength and is nursing normally, prompting him to slam down money for 3 additional sets. Customers swarm Anton's marketplace stall, desperately snapping up every available bundle on the spot. With his stock vanishing faster than anticipated, the ambitious young trader knows he must secure an immediate restock from Evergreen before running completely out of inventory. Meanwhile, in the village kitchen, Kalan celebrates his massive trade profits by preparing a legendary dish from his past life, spicy tteokbokki. Now that cheap grain has entered the territory, our boy can finally boil up expensive rice cakes without breaking the bank. The Lord's blonde overseer wanders inside right as the cauldron threatens to boil over. Entranced by the rich chili aroma, he accepts Kalan's offer to share a portion. The fiery spice hits both of them hard, leaving them gasping. If you ask me, that looks insanely delicious. That quiet meal doesn't last long. Armed knights violently kick open the door, barging into the room to deliver an urgent royal proclamation directly from Count Sinclair himself. The herald unrolls the heavy scroll, issuing an absolute command for Evergreen's leader to report to Sinclair Castle without delay. Refusal is strictly forbidden. Shock freezes Kalan's face as the sudden threat sinks in. What could the Count possibly want with a simple village head? Suspicious of the abrupt summons, the blonde guard steps forward to grill the messenger for detailed answers, but the intimidated soldier admits he knows nothing about his master's underlying plot. He was simply ordered to transport the target without wasting a single moment. That should have settled the situation. Instead, the blonde overseer decides he won't let Kalan walk into a trap alone. He grimly announces that he will accompany the young leader straight to Sinclair Castle to face the Lord together. The blonde overseer scoffs at our boy's panic, insisting the sudden summons indicates urgent commercial business rather than a death sentence. Kalan frantically crams as much spicy rice cake into his mouth as humanly possible before being ordered to his feet. Our young leader suddenly freezes in total surprise. He gazes down at the spotless, empty plate across the table. How on earth did the knight finish his fiery portion so quickly? Honestly, I would have burned my tongue on the first bite. Moments later at Sinclair Castle, the heavy wooden doors slam shut behind them with a deafening thud. Cold dread fills the high arched corridor. The two visitors step forward under the watchful eyes of palace guards. High upon his throne sits Count Patrick Sinclair, the ruling lord of the territory. His piercing gaze locks straight onto the young village head. Absolute authority commands the room. Both men fall to their knees to pay proper homage to the ruler. But while bowing low on the blue carpet, Kalan silently curses the blonde guard, threatening to cut off his food supply. Revenge is sweet. Count Sinclair breaks the silence, asking if Kalan is the one behind the mysterious marine supply. The Lord raises a dark, dripping stalk of the devil's hand seaweed into the air. He firmly asks if sea turtles truly feed on this plant after laying eggs. That should have been a routine business inquiry. Instead, a cold sweat breaks out across Kalan's forehead. He only made up that turtle story to boost market sales. Is our boy about to get executed for false advertising? Dominic takes a massive gamble by pitching raw black seaweed as a legendary recovery medicine. He has zero proof turtles eat this, but modern nutrition science never lies, so our boy pushes forward boldly. He brazenly claims his distant homeland cooks this devil's hand for new mothers, playing directly on noble curiosity. The Lord inspects the dark seaweed with deep intrigue, thoroughly impressed by the young general's vast culinary knowledge. When the ruler questions Lord Hanover about Dominic's true conduct, our boy frantically whispers, "Put in a good word for me." The tactical bribe works. Hanover gives a glowing recommendation, praising his courage, skill, and unbiased wisdom. Receiving such high praise from the notoriously picky knight seals the deal completely. With character verified, the Lord reveals his wife recently gave birth to a precious baby boy. Our boy quickly offers his warm congratulations. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. The Duchess has refused to step foot out of her room, so the Lord officially places her entire recovery directly under Dominic's command. Sounds simple, right? Our tactical chef seizes the unplanned job offer and demands 1 gold coin a week, believing his golden era has officially begun. If he gets paid that much for cooking, sign me up too. Instead, his massive salary comes with an immediate roadblock when an enraged voice roars from behind locked doors. "I told you no, absolutely not." His sweet dream shatters instantly. The noble lady screams right through the heavy wooden doors, flat out refusing to see any cook. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Our tactical chef scratches his chin in disbelief while his sweet dream of earning easy gold coins instantly crumbles. Is his massive salary gone already? The nervous maid steps out to apologize, admitting the Countess has completely lost her appetite. Lord Hanover confesses she was never this quick-tempered in the past, but our boy notices a crucial clue. She still eats her seaweed soup, proving her appetite is actually fine. A sudden revelation hits the young general. See, back in his past life on Earth, he visited a modern postnatal care center when his older sister gave birth. His sister was so bloated from fluid retention that he could barely recognize her face. Connecting the timeline, Dominic realizes post-birth edema is the real enemy locking her inside. When he suddenly asks if the lady is suffering from extreme body swelling, the maid stammers in utter shock. He calmly explains that her body is desperately hoarding water and fat for milk production. Proper dietary control is the absolute key to fixing this issue. Placing a hand over his chest, our brilliant nutritionist boldly promises he can solve her swelling himself. I love seeing him work his magic. As the maid prepares to enter the room, Dominic mentally tallies up the damage, 0 physical activity paired with the elder lord's salty, heavy dinners. Nearby, Hanover quietly confides that he always highlights our boy's true merits to his father. Hanover urges Dominic to give this critical mission his absolute all. Our boy immediately teases the picky knight about his sudden change of heart, suggesting the Tteokbokki bought his loyalty. Embarrassed, Hanover vows to keep his mouth shut. The heavy bedroom door finally creaks open as the anxious maid invites them inside. Seeing the brilliant chef who successfully managed her father's meals, the Countess admits she is willing to place her trust in him. Assessing her heavy swelling, the young general realizes her self-esteem has hit rock bottom. He worries that severe postpartum depression might set in next. That would be a complete disaster. The lady tearfully confesses she has been starving herself without losing a single pound. Clutching her dress in total despair, she assumes cutting even more food is her only option left. Dominic interrupts and boldly orders her to eat. The noblewoman flies into a rage, shouting, "Are you toying with me, you hack? Can anyone blame her confusion?" But our boy never flinches. He calmly explains that his targeted meal plan acts as direct medical treatment to restore her original figure. Realizing she has no other options, she agrees to strictly follow his instructions. She sets a hard deadline of 3 weeks before her public blessing ceremony. I love seeing his unshakable confidence here. Clasping her hand with a smirk, the little general accepts the ultimatum. With the high-stakes contract sealed, our tactical chef begins constructing his legendary recovery menu as the sun sets over the estate. Walking through the grand mansion hallway, Hanover questions whether his wife's condition is more critical than his father's gout. Dominic admits the elder lord's gout was a straightforward target, but curing post-birth edema while simultaneously boosting high-calorie stamina for breastfeeding? That is a complicated tactical nightmare. The picky knight offers unexpected wisdom, suggesting he clear one single obstacle at a time just like basic combat training. Sounds simple, right? It actually works. Realizing he was overthinking, our 9-year-old menace smirks as his direction crystallizes. He will focus exclusively on eliminating her swelling first. The next morning, the grand culinary battle officially begins. Maid Emily carries a peculiar breakfast tray directly to Lady Monica. The foreign spread features rich perilla seed seaweed soup, brown beans, and semi-dried grilled fish. Right next to the meal sits a steaming cup of pumpkin broth, engineered specifically to flush out bodily toxins and crush fluid retention. Staring down at the unfamiliar dishes, the distressed countess sighs in utter confusion. If someone handed me unknown seaweeds in a medieval palace, I'd be skeptical too. Still, desperately wanting her old figure back, she takes her very first cautious bite while her maid watches with bated breath. Her face sours right away. She looks up and complains this tastes rather bland. But that is when everything changes. Once Emily clarifies that low sodium is the targeted weapon to drain her swelling fast, the lady's doubts vanish. She aggressively devours the entire feast, leaving every plate licked clean. Feeling completely drowsy after her meal, Lady Monica prepares to take a relaxing nap. That should have solved her fatigue. Instead, Maid Emily timidly delivers Dominic's strict tactical order, a mandatory 30-minute walk after every meal to jumpstart her dormant metabolism. Remembering her promise, the noble woman reluctantly agrees. Gasping for breath during her arduous walk, the Countess is genuinely shocked by her ruined endurance. When she finally struggles back inside to wash up, Emily drops another agonizing rule, shattering her hopes of relaxation. Dominic capped her warm bath to strictly 10 minutes as long soakings actively worsened body fluid swelling. Losing her single remaining comfort, she grinds her teeth and curses our little general in absolute fury. The grueling program only intensifies. Next comes a painful targeted body massage to drain trapped lymphatic fluids. Clenching her fists through bitter tears, she vows vengeance if this routine fails. Her furious screams bounce off the high castle walls. Down in the mansion kitchen, our tactical chef remains completely unbothered, enjoying fresh tteokbokki alongside Lord Hanover. But their peaceful snack is suddenly interrupted when the Grand Ruler walks right inside, lured by the irresistible aroma. Armed with a fork, he smiles warmly and asks to join the feast. See, it all starts years ago inside a luxury mansion. The young lord locks eyes with a breathtaking noble lady during a grand banquet. Sparks fly instantly across the ballroom. It is pure love at first sight for both of them. They hold hands under the sparkling chandeliers and promise to spend eternity together. Before long, formal wedding vows are exchanged in front of the entire kingdom. Their romantic future looks completely unstoppable. Even years later, he still remembers every single moment of that meeting. When his father steps down, the noble heir takes full control of the castle territory. To make things even better, the goddess blesses his pregnant wife. He works tirelessly managing domain affairs while showering her with total devotion. He believes their bond can never break. That sweet dream shatters into complete chaos. Down at a local tavern, our stressed lord chugs mug after mug of beer while ranting frantically. Why is his expecting wife constantly exploding at him? Is marriage always this nerve-wracking? Our boys just watch him suffer in silence. Our culinary strategist keeps his composure amidst the chaos. He gently reminds the frantic noble that expectant mothers naturally get sensitive during holy rituals. Looking straight at the miserable husband, our boy delivers one serious question. Does he still love her? The blonde knight beside them glances over in disbelief, wondering if that cheesy line actually provided any real comfort. Honestly, I wouldn't take relationship advice from a teenage chef either, but the emotional moment passes quickly. Time moves fast in the territory. Soon enough, the long-awaited birth blessing ceremony arrives under clear blue skies. Massive crowds of high-ranking nobles gather outside the spectacular central cathedral. The grand event is finally getting underway. Outside the grand central cathedral, high society snobs whisper maliciously behind ornate fans. They eagerly anticipate a total disaster, praying the countess's post-pregnancy figure is completely ruined after giving birth 4 weeks ago. I wonder how miserable she'll look now. Honestly, this level of petty disrespect is unmatched. Disgusted by the surrounding chatter, our noble companion sweat drops before turning back to the young culinary strategist. Is this a sacred blessing ritual or just high-class trash talk? He openly questions whether a mere 3 weeks of dietary changes could yield any real visible transformation. Our boy stays completely calm, putting total faith in her willpower. As long as the lady followed what I told her to do, there shouldn't be any problems. By restructuring her nutrition and daily lifestyle, rapid weight gain drops just as quickly. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. His knightly friend remains deeply skeptical. Massive cathedral bells ring out across the plaza, instantly slicing through the aristocrat's idle gossip. Standing tall atop the steps, the high priest takes center stage to officially inaugurate the long-awaited birth blessing ceremony. The religious leader preaches that every new life is sacred, calling upon everyone present to join in unified prayer. Then, with a dramatic burst of divine grandeur, he flings the massive sanctuary doors wide open, summoning Count Sinclair and his wife to step forward into the holy light. Angelic choral hymns resound through the grand cathedral as choir members lift their voices in harmony. Every noble guest turns in breathless suspense toward the opening doors. That should have been a quiet entrance. Instead, tension spikes as two sets of confident footsteps stride directly into the spotlight. The blonde knight watches the grand reveal from the crowd with wide eyes. Against every expectation, the countess steps into the sunlight, looking breathtakingly radiant, holding her newborn baby beside the count. It turns out the young strategist's dietary plan actually worked. The high society aristocrats freeze in utter shock. Spiteful noblewomen snap their ornate fans in pure fury, unable to process her slim post-pregnancy figure looking this incredible. Shocked chatter floods the cathedral steps. Did she rely on secret magic to pull this off? Our knight knows magic is impossible. Her body's mana compatibility is completely terrible. He turns toward our young mastermind, unnerved by the boy's calm demeanor. Where does a simple village chief get this kind of overwhelming confidence? That should have solved the problem. Instead, our boy casually announces he is heading straight back to Evergreen right after the celebration. His knight companion looks completely bewildered. Is he really walking away from a high-paying position as her personal diet manager? He can easily manage her weekly diet routine through simple letters. Glowing gold symbols fill his eyes as a devious grin spreads across his face. Because right now I smell money in the air. Honestly, I respect the hustle. Night falls across the noble territory, and the grand mansion lights up for the victory banquet. Aristocrats flood the magnificent ballroom under sparkling chandeliers, sipping fine wine and exchanging shallow pleasantries under the moonlit sky. While the radiant countess mingles gracefully, the jealous red-haired noblewoman fumes in the dark corner. But her dirty scheme is far from over. Her maid steps forward to report. Did she uncover the mastermind behind this miracle? Inside the glowing mansion, the maid delivers alarming intelligence to her ambitious mistress. It turns out it was not a grand castle chef who managed the countess's meals, but a simple village chief from Count Sinclair's territory. The red-haired noblewoman listens intently, calculating her next move. Gritting her teeth in frustration, she realizes coercing the boy directly risks sparking an unwanted public feud with the Count's powerful family. But giving up is simply impossible. Her burning jealousy demands a secretive solution at any cost. Meanwhile, high society ladies across the ballroom watch the glowing countess in sheer admiration. Could this unknown village chief transform their own figures as well? Honestly, I would pay top coin for that kind of dietary wizardry too. Morning light bathes Evergreen as another peaceful day begins. Dominic rubs his sleepy eyes, answering a loud knock at his front door early in the morning. Standing on the porch, his bald uncle greets him with a wide, confident grin. The village elder marches right inside and thumps a heavy burlap sack onto the wooden table. Overflowing gold coins shimmer bright in the morning light. The seaweed revenue from Anton Trading Company has finally arrived, confirming Anton successfully launched his independent commercial venture. The old man beams with genuine gratitude, thanking Dominic for turning their quiet fishing village into a highly lucrative enterprise. But our young strategist remains completely grounded. He insists this massive profit belongs to the collective labor of their entire fishing cooperative. Collecting massive profit is only step one of his ambitious master plan. Calling his uncle over, Dominic unfolds a comprehensive regional map across the table with crisp, decisive precision. Their humble fishing village is officially preparing for its next major commercial conquest. His uncle stares down at the detailed regional map in complete confusion, asking what on earth his clever nephew is planning now. Leaning over the table with a sharp, confident grin, our young general reveals his ultimate ambition. If this bold commercial strategy succeeds, the people of Evergreen will never have to worry about food ever again. Dominic marches the local workers down to a quiet, shallow shoreline where gentle waves barely ripple across pure white sand. The village elders remain deeply skeptical of the location, pointing out that shallow waters turn this coast into a complete dead spot where fishing boats cannot even launch. What are you trying to say, Dominic? Our culinary mastermind flashes a confident grin, laying out a revolutionary business strategy that stuns every local present. Instead of fighting the shallow water, he will promote pristine nature and pure relaxation as their main attractions. In short, a luxury resort. The illiterate lion and workers can only stare in complete bewilderment. Meanwhile, the blonde noble inspector approaches the coast, thoroughly rattled by heavy hammering noises echoing through the palm trees. He steps onto the clearing and stops dead in his tracks as raw wooden frames rise directly from the beachfront sand. Is this guy actually building on open sand? Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Heavy iron mallets smash down onto thick timber planks with devastating force, securing foundation beams deep into the shoreline earth. The workers heave in unison, sweating under the burning sun to finish the structural framework before high tide arrives. Instead of doing manual labor, our 9-year-old menace stands in the center, clacking wooden batons together like a lunatic maestro supervising construction. I've got to respect that level of shamelessness. The noble inspector watches in absolute exasperation, calling him the most obnoxious supervisor ever before ordering him to follow along. It has been a full month since their last council, and the high-level village head meeting is officially underway inside the Grand Estate. The local leaders gather behind closed doors to decide the territory's economic future. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. Inside the Grand Estate mansion, the local village leaders immediately devolve into a petty shouting match over gift clothing colors for a noble newborn. That should have solved their territory strategy. Instead, it creates a bigger headache. Our boy folds his arms in total exasperation as the elders resort to drawing straws. Before a riot erupts, a maid interrupts to announce the Lord is hosting lunch with soldiers at the training field. The elders instantly scramble to kiss up to their ruler. Is seeing the Lord really such a grand reward? Dominic groans in deep defeat, forced to tag along as part of the applause brigade. Out on the training field, the situation turns grotesque. A red-haired knight suddenly doubles over, spewing violent projectile vomit across the dirt, while the oblivious elders assume it is merely brutal military conditioning. Nice try, old men, but that is not fatigue. Something dangerous is sweeping the ranks. Our 9-year-old menace rushes straight to the collapsed soldier's side to conduct a rapid medical check. The trembling knight gasps out that he was hit with violent stomach cramps, chills, and nausea earlier this morning. The diagnosis hits fast. This is not physical exhaustion. It is acute food poisoning. Connecting the timeline, the little general bolts directly into the mansion's main kitchen. He startles the head chef, demanding an immediate inspection of all stored ingredients. If he does not locate the toxic source right now, the entire estate and army will be paralyzed before lunch. His sharp eyes freeze on a massive wooden crate of raw oysters packed in melting ice. Dominic confronts the chef, who casually promises the seafood is completely fresh. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Raw shellfish stored improperly is a deadly biological hazard, and the real crisis is only just beginning. The head chef casually admits he whipped up a raw ceviche delicacy for the red-haired knight earlier as an extra snack. Is feeding raw seafood to military personnel on a sweltering summer morning really a smart move? Our boy groans in deep exasperation as the clueless cook boasts about his own generosity. Dominic picks up an oyster shell and unsheathes a sharp kitchen knife, bluntly declaring the raw meat completely spoiled. The veteran cook scoffs in frustration, insisting he personally inspected every piece in the delivery crate. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Poisonous bacterial toxins leave zero visible warning signs to an untrained head chef. The 9-year-old menace pinpoints the true culprit as lethal shellfish cold poisoning. The arrogant chef laughs directly in his face, claiming that condition only strikes during freezing winter months before dropping a sinister warning. If you come into someone else's kitchen and start spewing nonsense like this, take note of what happens. Our boy completely shatters his flawed logic. Summer heat accelerates dangerous toxins, and Mickey is already suffering from violent stomach cramps, chills, and projectile vomiting after an incubation period. The chef's smug composure instantly collapses into sheer panic as the full medical breakdown hits home. Reality hits the kitchen staff like a sledgehammer. If a massive foodborne outbreak paralyzes the Lord's elite troops right before an official military inspection, it will be treated as devastating criminal negligence. The man's hands shake violently as terrifying visions of immediate termination, prison, and public ruin flash through his mind. That should have been the end of his culinary career. Instead, it creates a chance for a strategic rescue. Before the panicked cook collapses into complete despair, the little general steps forward with a calm, decisive promise. "I'll help you." The frantic chef can only freeze in absolute astonishment. Dominic refuses to abandon a comrade in crisis, immediately stepping forward to overhaul the entire estate lunch menu. The desperate head chef can only stare in complete relief as our boy rolls up his sleeves and assumes total control of the high-stakes kitchen operation. But that is when everything changes. The panicked cook warns that strict military protocol forbids any unapproved menu swaps. The Lord receives an official ingredient list prior to every meal, and altering the pre-approved menu without permission could invite suspicion of lethal poisoning. Instead of throwing away the contaminated oysters, the little general orders the full batch thoroughly cooked on high heat. He feeds the chef a simplified story about boiling out the illness like sweating out a fever. Sounds simple, right? The clueless cook swallows the absurd logic completely. In truth, modern science confirms that heat exceeding 85 degrees Celsius completely neutralizes the dangerous norovirus within 90 seconds. Explaining modern microbiology would only get him branded as a crazy con artist, so dumbing it down is a necessary survival tactic. Looking over the raw seafood, Dominic formulates a brilliant emergency recipe designed to neutralize the toxins while satisfying a noble palate. He flashes a confident grin, ready to turn a dangerous biohazard into a culinary triumph. Failure is not an option. Meanwhile, out on the scorching training grounds, the Lord personally inspects intense spear drills under the burning sun. The elite soldiers push their bodies to the absolute limit in mandatory heat endurance training. Suddenly, a mind-blowing, delicious aroma drifts across the dusty field, completely shattering the ruler's intense concentration. He sniffs the air in utter disbelief, demanding to know what legendary feast is currently cooking inside his estate kitchen. Inside the steaming kitchen, oil pops in heavy iron pans. The cooks dip fresh oysters into egg wash, frying them to a golden crunch. Our culinary mastermind directs the crew to squeeze fresh lemons with sugar. No one can resist this flavor. When an assistant carries in crates of fresh raw chicken, the young strategist sees an immediate opportunity. Throwing away leftover meat is unthinkable waste. He pivots the entire menu on the fly, ordering spicy firecracker chicken soup paired with fast-cooked wheat noodles. Out on the sun-drenched grounds, soldiers grind through relentless spear drills as commanders push them to their physical limits. But that is when everything changes. A rich, savory aroma drifts across the open yard. Their tight formation shatters instantly, leaving every soldier drooling in line. Smelling the mouth-watering feast himself, the green-haired lord halts drill practice without hesitation. He commands his officers to let the soldiers eat first. Hearing the order, the troops erupt into wild celebration. Honestly, who can blame them? Nothing beats hot food after training. The Lord knows that loyalty must be earned through action. Unlike famous war heroes, he stays grounded by personally caring for his men. Moments later, the kitchen delivers a magnificent spread of crisp salad, golden fried oysters, and steaming firecracker chicken noodles. Victory starts at the dinner table. The head chef trembles in anxiety, apologizing that they lack fancy banquet dishes today. But the Lord chuckles and waves off his worries. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. A simple meal served with true respect wins more hearts than any royal feast ever could. The head chef nervously breaks down the menu, presenting crisp lemon oyster fritters alongside bowls of firecracker chicken soup. Each dish packs vital nutrients to rebuild tired muscle, boost immunity, and restore lost stamina. This isn't just lunch, it's high-tier tactical fuel. The green-haired lord takes his first bite and immediately marvels at the depth of flavor. Across the sun-drenched yard, soldiers devour their fast-cooked wheat noodles, bantering back and forth over who can handle the fiery chili kick. Honestly, I'd eat 3 bowls myself. Hearing his men debate the heavy heat, the green-haired lord wonders if it really packs that much punch. He dips a full spoon into the steaming broth, taking a solid bite to evaluate the spice level himself. The fiery kick hits him like a battering ram. His eyes snap wide as intense heat sweeps through his core. But that is when everything changes. The initial shock transforms into a wave of pure, invigorating satisfaction. Delicious. Watching his commander relish every single bite, the trembling head chef bursts into tears of pure relief. He survived the crisis. A bad meal could have ruined his career, but this victory saved him. From the edge of the training grounds, our culinary mastermind smiles as the men empty their dishes. He admits to the officer beside him that he worried the sweet and spicy balance might prove too intense. Surprised by his modesty, the blonde knight asks if he really intends to keep his genius secret from the Lord. But our boy just shrugs it off. Why steal the spotlight when your food speaks for itself? The blonde knight urges our young strategist to strike while the iron is hot and demand a fat bonus from the Lord. But Lil Bro just laughs in his face. Why waste energy shouting about your own genius when the results speak for themselves? Before the knight can even process his logic, the tearful head chef comes sprinting over. The Lord just handed out a massive cash bonus to the entire kitchen crew, and the grateful head chef insists on sharing the reward with the mastermind who saved his neck. Right on cue, the Lord's stern butler steps up with an official summons. He orders Dominic to straighten his disheveled clothes for an immediate private audience with the ruler of Evergreen. Our boy turns back with a sinister smirk that leaves the officer completely speechless. He didn't need to brag. The butler did all the heavy lifting for him. I swear, that smug face really deserves a solid punch. Inside the Lord's grand mansion, the audience chamber doors open wide. Kneeling on the polished hall floor, Dominic plays the humble servant while the green-haired lord showers him with praise. The lord laughs openly, admitting he has lost track of how many times he's been indebted to the clever village head. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Dominic knows the lord eats the head chef's food every single day, meaning an outsider taking credit would be exposed instantly. Staying a humble strategist keeps his head safe while he quietly pulls every puppet string in Evergreen. The green-haired lord drops a massive proposal, offering to hand over full control of the entire castle kitchen to our young strategist. But Lil Bro turns down the prestigious offer on the spot, humbly insisting the castle already has a capable head chef while his own village faces a desperate survival crisis. Curious, the lord asks what kind of project could be so urgent. Our boy knows this is his golden opportunity. He puts on his best tragic face, explaining that Evergreen's temporary seaweed trade won't save them once the farmer turtles migrate, leaving his people to starve unless he builds a permanent economy. Moved by his selfless dedication, the green-haired lord feels ashamed for neglecting his ruler duties and immediately offers full royal backing for the project. Yet Dominic turns down the free aid without hesitation. If he doesn't want royal cash, what is he really after? The hall plunges into total silence. The blonde knight panics internally, wondering why anyone in their right mind would refuse direct backing from the lord. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a dangerous new conflict brews inside the Merchant Guild office. Guild leader Rondo clutches his aching stomach, fuming that Anton's booming seaweed trade is systematically destroying his lucrative food monopoly across Count Sinclair's territory. Terrified of losing his market share before the kid even turns 20, the merchant boss slams the table and barks at his useless subordinates to eliminate the rival trade network by any means necessary. That should have solved his problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. Inside the Merchant Guild office, Rondo's muscle-bound henchmen suggest beating up Anton or burning down his main warehouse to instantly crush their economic rival. But the former mercenary boss snaps back in fury, slamming his heavy desk while berating his incompetent thugs for thinking like brainless street criminals. Pivoting tactics, one henchman reveals that a brilliant young village head from Evergreen is the actual mastermind behind the lucrative seaweed trade. Taking out that kid will shatter Anton's entire supply chain, forcing the fishermen to crawl back. Can Anton survive this targeted hit? Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. The vicious scheme hits the mark. A gold-toothed grin spreads across Rondo's face as dark red aura surges around him. He barks immediate commands to assemble every mercenary for a ruthless raid on Evergreen, ordering them to leave the village head permanently crippled. I swear, these thugs have no idea what kind of strategic genius they're poking. But the raid is already set in motion. Inside the Grand Hall, our boy refuses to act like a desperate beggar. As the ruler sits high on his throne and asks if he is genuinely rejecting direct assistance, the young general stands completely firm. He isn't looking for pity. That's correct, my lord. I don't need a handout. Instead of begging for charity, our clever tactician pitches a formal business deal. The ruler leans forward in surprise, caught off guard by the bold demand for an investment. If the lord provides seed capital, our hero promises to return the principal with interest. The lord tries holding back a smirk before bursting into loud laughter. Everyone else tries to bleed his treasury dry, but this village head brings a high-yield opportunity. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. When asked for terms, our boy immediately reaches into his vest and pulls out a pre-written contract. The monocled treasurer steps in and takes the document. Our hero came prepared for battle. The treasurer presents the scroll and the ruler reads through every clause. The contract demands total capital without allowing any noble meddling in territory operations. That should have caused a massive clash. Instead, the lord praises his sheer audacity. The ruler orders his treasurer to finalize a 10-year repayment plan with interest rates lower than the standard guild loan. Our boy beams with confidence while his companion sits beside him, completely stunned by how easily the deal closed. The ruler chuckles, realizing he almost wasted a brilliant administrator inside a kitchen. As our hero bows low to honor the agreement, the lord rests on his throne with a satisfied grin. Frankly, I'd back this kid's enterprise any day. Their project will leave capital nobles green with envy. Back at the coast, the illiterate lion stares at the official document in sheer disbelief. Our boy really pulled off a massive miracle to secure full capital for Evergreen. There is just one tiny catch. You're holding the letter upside down. The old chief can't read a single line. With capital secured, Dominic orders site clearance and construction to begin immediately. The overjoyed former leader calls for a massive village barbecue with roasted meat and cold drinks to celebrate their historic deal. The whole town is hyped to feast. But that is when everything changes. High on the cliffs overlooking the harbor, a ruthless gang of mounted bandits spots the peaceful settlement. Their smirking leader unsheathes his sword, eager to raid and terrorize the unsuspecting villagers below. Under the night sky, the victory banquet is roaring. The old chief brags that appointing Lil Bro was all thanks to his sharp eyes. The fisherman instantly shut him down, reminding the old man he only handed over power because he was too lazy to learn reading. Suddenly, heavy hooves thunder through the darkness. The feast grinds to a halt as armed raiders charge into camp with drawn steel. Who interrupts hungry fishermen during a barbecue? Frankly, these bandits picked the absolute worst night to launch an ambush. Instead of cowering in fear, the village crew steps forward with terrifying grins. They must have a death wish. Seeing these peaceful fishermen instantly transform into bloodthirsty war demons leaves our young leader completely speechless. The handsome knight steps forward with a glowing aura, ready to protect the settlement. But before he can tell the village head to hide in safety, our clever tactician happily cheers him on and leaves the entire battle to him. The blonde knight glares back in pure irritation as Lil Bro hides behind a massive boulder. Our young leader happily waves from safety, completely unbothered while leaving the violent fighting to his companions. The mounted bandit commander charges into the clearing and roars, "Whoever the village head is, raise your hand." He expects complete submission from frightened peasants. Instead of cowering, the illiterate lion orders his men to take every attacker alive to uncover who ordered this surprise strike. What follows is sheer violence. The muscular fishermen sprint straight into the charging cavalry, grabbing mounted raiders off their saddles and slamming them into the hard earth. Their terrifying physical power hurls the attackers through the air like ragdolls. The ambush collapses into a total beatdown. Panicked raiders scream as heavy fist after heavy fist smashes straight into their faces. Who brings swords to a fistfight against monsters? The village crew crushes the enemy force without breaking a single sweat. Meanwhile, our boy relaxes behind his rock while munching on delicious meat skewers. This is way more exciting than a school fight. Watching his fishermen obliterate trained combatants, Dominic decides to put even more effort into their daily meals. Frankly, I'd pay good money to watch this show. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. While Lil Bro stays distracted by the ongoing brawl, a sneaky raider creeps around the boulder and locks a sharp blade against his neck. Pulling out a target sketch, the bandit smirks after confirming he caught the actual village head. The captor roars across the chaotic battlefield, "Everyone stop, or your village head dies." The trap snaps shut. Their victorious brawl grinds to a sudden terrifying halt as every single villager turns to see their leader held at knife point. The illiterate lion screams in absolute terror, demanding to know why Lil Bro failed to hide. The arrogant bandit tightens his chokehold around our boy's neck, ordering the entire village crew to drop their weapons. "You'd better listen if you don't want things to get messy." That should have ended the fight. Instead, the handsome knight signals for total silence and vanishes into the dark shadow of the boulder. Moving like a shadow assassin, he glides toward the captor's blind spot. Can a swift rescue turn the tide before blood spills? Meanwhile, the old chief puts on an Oscar-worthy performance, wailing hysterically and offering complete surrender to keep the captor's eyes locked forward. Frankly, his dramatic crying is painful to watch. The annoyed bandit screams back for him to shut his mouth. A defeated raider frantically shouts a late warning to his boss. The hostage-taker glances back just as the blonde knight leaps through the night sky like an angry predator. The trap snaps shut in a single heartbeat. Cornered and desperate, the ruthless captor loses his mind. "If I'm going down, I'm not dying alone." He raises his sharp blade to execute our young leader on the spot. Horrified screams erupt across the village as the deadly steel plunges downward. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Before the weapon connects, our little general catches the attacker's wrist mid-strike and drives his shoulder straight into the man's ribs. The heavy bandit gets hurled through the air and crashes like trash into the dirt. Silence falls over the entire coast. Dominic stares down at his own hands in shock, completely clueless how his body reacted on pure combat instinct. The amazed fishermen crowd around to celebrate his deadly tackle, while Lil Bro just stands there sweat-dropping in confusion. The defeated raider lies unconscious in the dirt, wondering if the target possesses hidden combat talent. Excited cheers erupt as the wild villagers beg our boy to try that brutal tackle out on them next. That was no accident. Watching closely, the handsome knight narrows his eyes. The young general just unconsciously channeled real mana into his full power strike. Mid-clash, hands lock together in a fierce grip as internal mana violently surges through the village chief's body, slamming the opponent down with a massive shockwave. Observing from high above, the masked spy takes in every single detail of that unexpected magic wave. That dangerous battle tension snaps into light-hearted chaos when the meat-obsessed old lord yanks our boy into a tight headlock. Watching the bizarre scene from a distance, the masked observer realizes there is definitely a much bigger reason to keep a close eye on this young lord. Back inside the stronghold, the captured intruders sit tightly bound on the wooden floor. Our little general stands front and center to grill them on their ties to the infamous Rondo Merchant Guild. Why would a wealthy trading group resort to such reckless plunder? The captive spokesman spits back with reckless pride. He smirks arrogance and screams, "We're bandits. We're not the type to serve under anyone." That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. Our boy flashes a terrifying crooked grin that instantly chills the entire room. He casually laments that he was actually planning to let one of them walk free if they answered honestly, but now it seems like a total waste of mercy. The head bandit's tough front collapses into pure panic. He screams at the top of his lungs, "Me, I can answer well." The rest of the crew erupts in wild outrage as their criminal brotherhood crumbles. "If he doesn't snitch, I will." Our young general steps forward with an amused smirk. He mocks how fast their tough criminal pride dissolved. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly, because his smile fades fast as the real interrogation begins. Our boy shuts down the arrogant bandit leader on the spot, cold-heartedly declaring him disqualified. He is out. Seeing their tyrant boss get instantly kicked out of the deal, the rest of the captured crew erupts in celebration. The little general turns back to the prisoners, casually asking if anyone else wants to volunteer. A tearful young rookie immediately breaks down, begging for a second chance on his very first raid. The lieutenant inspects the boy's uncalloused hands, confirming he isn't a hardened killer. Recognizing a desperate victim of circumstance, our boy decides to grant him mercy. Can you really blame him? The untied kid follows the lieutenant into the private quarters, weeping tears of relief and endless gratitude. Later that night inside the mansion, the real interrogation gets underway over warm tea. The young rookie reveals how the Rondo Merchant Guild keeps produced prices dirt cheap. They seize fertile farmland through predatory loans and drag bankrupt peasants into relentless slave labor. That is a massive legal violation. See, the Count established strict interest caps across the entire territory, but predatory merchants never explain complex laws to commoners. Honestly, I love seeing corporate corruption exposed like this. Our boy realizes the guild purposefully weaponized local ignorance. The kid spills even darker secrets about Rondo's illegal syndicate. Beyond simple extortion, they routinely terrorize small villages, assault independent shopkeepers, and even torch rival trade houses to eliminate competition. Everything suddenly clicks into place. Testimony alone won't be enough to prosecute a wealthy trade syndicate without undeniable evidence linking the top brass to these crimes, but that is when everything changes. The rookie reaches inside his clothes and presents a valid promissory note issued directly under the guildmaster's name. Our boy takes the signed promissory note, immediately grasping the massive tactical opening handed right to him. Seeing the rookie tremble in terror, he flashes a confident smirk and promises the kid that his running days are officially over. Could this single document finally bring down the entire corrupt merchant syndicate? Citing extenuating legal circumstances, the little general offers complete protection inside their village in exchange for keeping the evidence. Tears of relief fill the young boy's eyes as he tearfully vows to abandon crime forever. Honestly, I love seeing a cruel system get turned against itself. At the territorial court, Guildmaster Rondo stands bound in heavy ropes before the high bench. Confronted by damning physical proof, the desperate merchant completely loses his composure and shrieks at the top of his lungs that he was framed. His fake authority crumbles instantly. Spectating nobles openly scoff at his pathetic denial, while our boy and his lieutenant quietly watch their clever trap snap shut. The judge angrily slams order, roaring at Rondo for daring to lie in the face of overwhelming proof. There is zero escape left. The final verdict lands like an iron hammer. For his endless crimes of arson, fraud, and illegal usury, all assets belonging to the Rondo Merchant Guild are permanently confiscated to compensate victims. Rondo is sentenced to unpardonable forced labor deep inside the grueling Bailey mines. Guards violently drag the shrieking criminal away as he panics and foolishly screams out the names of officials he bribed. Nice payback. Hearing the villain expose his own secret network in open court, the attending green-haired lord immediately orders the judge to hunt down every bribed traitor. The green-haired lord orders an immediate, full-scale purge of every single bribed official in the territory. Court administrators quickly step forward with the confiscated guild asset portfolio. The judge decrees that all liquid property will be auctioned to compensate suffering victims. Watching the court proceedings from the back row, the lieutenant asks our young general what his next move will be. Our boy already has his sights set on buying key assets, but can he outbid wealthy merchants? Instead of bidding on flashy guild mansions, the little general specifically targets fertile farmland. He requires high-yield soil to supply his planned culinary institute. The lieutenant stands completely bewildered by the choice. A culinary academy in a border village? The auctioneer takes the floor and drops a game-changing announcement. Each participant is strictly limited to bidding on just 2 items. The entire hall instantly erupts in loud outrage. Wealthy elites panic. The official confirms this rule comes directly from the Lord to stop corrupt syndicates from monopolizing land. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger scramble as rich buyers frantically redesign their entire bidding strategy. Our boy looks toward the high bench, catching the green-haired lord giving him a subtle nod and a wink. The lord intentionally rigged the auction limit so our boy could secure key property without getting outspent. Honestly, I love seeing powerful allies clutch up like this. While mansions, carriages, and jewelry are called out one by one, our young general squeezes his eyes shut in intense prayer. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly, because every passing minute increases the tension. Finally, Rutvia Farm is called up. His eyes light up with pure triumph. With strict bidding limits locked in, our boy knows competition for the target farm will drop significantly. While nervous rival merchants panic over their remaining choices, the grand auction officially begins. The little general rubs his hands together, ready to claim his key property. Inside the grand auction hall, the speaker steps up to present the next item on the block. He pulls back the cover to reveal an extravagant pink dress from Rondo's private collection. Is this really what these noble buyers came for? The surrounding crowd instantly recoils in disgust at the bizarre outfit. Our ambitious general doesn't hesitate to join the mockery, flatly declaring he wouldn't take the cursed thing even if they handed it over for free. Out of nowhere, Paddle 35 shoots high into the air. A burly buyer claims the winning bid, proudly announcing he plans to gift the dress to his wife. Our boy can only stare back in silent disbelief. Honestly, good luck to her. At long last, the main event arrives as the official presents Rutvia Farm. Our young general snaps to attention. But the auctioneer clears his throat to deliver a grim catch, warning that steep mountains encircle the land and leave access roads dangerously narrow. To make matters worse, the farmhands were all victims of Rondo's illegal debt operations. With those contracts voided, every laborer returns home today, forcing any prospective owner to rebuild the entire workforce from scratch. The crowd scoffs in unison, predicting that massive road repairs will drain a fortune long before the farm turns a single copper of profit. His companion turns in panic, asking if he seriously intends to settle on such a financial nightmare. Where everyone else sees a total trap, our master strategist sees massive potential. Dominic flashes a calm grin and raises Paddle 36 without hesitating for a second. This is perfect. Later at the tavern, heavy wooden mugs slam together as foam spills across the tables. The villagers cheer and toast to Village Chief Dominic for securing a fertile domain at base price. That should have solved his territorial problems. Instead, it creates a bigger one. Back at the tavern, Dominic toasts to his good fortune, boasting that heaven itself smiled on his auction bid. But his companion isn't buying the humble act for a second, demanding to know why our boy bought a territorial nightmare. Is this land really meant to become a communal farm for the village? Slamming a detailed list onto the wooden table, our young general asks to secure a massive supply of seeds. The trader agrees to source the crops, but warns that gathering specialized fertilizers for every single variety will take a massive amount of time. Dominic simply winks and drops a strategic bomb. I'm going organic. The room goes completely silent. His companion stammers that a former fisherman knows nothing about soil management, while his blonde ally can only sip his mug and wonder, what is he planning this time? How hard can farming really be without chemical boosters? Honestly, I wouldn't trust his crop plan either. Cutting out fertilizers slashes the delivery timetable to just 4 days. Our master strategist negotiates to pay the full price using dried mussels and seaweed before slamming heavy wooden mugs together to seal the trade. The deal is struck. The next morning, reality hits hard. A rickety wooden wagon rattles violently along an unpaved mountain trail, leaving our young general groaning in absolute agony as his severe hangover catches up to him. His golden-haired ally offers zero sympathy, clicking his tongue and reminding him that the auctioneer explicitly warned about these treacherous mountain roads. Our nauseous leader can only choke back vomit, feebly claiming that an abandoned road actually plays into his tactical advantage. He barely survives the trip. The carriage finally breaks through the dense forest canopy as the vast, wild boundaries of Rutvia Farm stretch out before them. They have officially arrived at their new domain, except his problems are only just beginning. Stepping down from the wooden carriage onto solid dirt, Dominic lets out a long sigh of relief. He barely survived the brutal, bone-rattling mountain trek. The dreadful ride is finally behind them. Looking out across the wide territory, lush green crops stretch far into the horizon. Our boy zeroes in on the rich, dark soil, immediately understanding why this land commanded such a high price tag. His golden-haired ally just nods along in complete ignorance. Agriculture clearly isn't his strong suit. Instead of surveying the farm's borders, our master strategist squats down by the dirt to unstrap his heavy pack. What could take priority over inspecting their new land? Dominic turns around with a wicked grin. A hangover cure comes first. He sets a heavy iron pot over an open campfire and brings the water to a roaring boil. When his knightly companion questions delaying the inspection, our ambitious lord scoffs that the ground isn't running away. That is when he reaches into his bag and pulls out a bottle filled with dark red liquid. Uncorking the flask with a triumphant pop, Dominic proudly reveals his secret hangover ingredient, fresh cow blood. His knightly ally recoils in absolute horror, gagging at the thought of eating such a dreadful concoction. Honestly, I would react the exact same way. Smiling at the knight's disgust, our culinary expert promises to cook a blood-free bowl for his companion. He drops the crimson chunks straight into the boiling broth and rubs his hands together in pure excitement. The real masterclass is about to begin. He thoroughly mixes seasoned napa greens with spicy red pepper, fermented soybean paste, garlic, and ginger before dumping the entire bowl into the bubbling cauldron. As the meat and spices simmer together, an incredible savory aroma fills the air, instantly clearing his hazy head. Watching the rich, spicy aromas rise from the iron pot, his golden-haired ally suddenly changes his mind. He clears his throat and sheepishly admits, "That's Sionji, I'll have it too." Dominic just grins back, declaring that real Yangpyeong hangover soup demands authentic blood. Dominic finishes the boiling stew with freshly sliced green chili peppers and serves a steaming bowl of rice on the side. The completed meal packs vital nutrients to restore energy and purge severe hangover fatigue. Honestly, I could really use a bowl of that right now. Looking down into the massive iron cauldron, our strategist suddenly hesitates. He realizes he cooked way too much food out of old habit. Sounds simple, right? Extra leftovers just mean tomorrow's meal is already completely taken care of. Dominic shoves a huge spoonful into his mouth and roars, "Nothing beats hangover soup!" Fiery passion blazes in his eyes as he furiously devours the piping hot dish. Can any fast food really compete with modern culinary science? His knightly ally stares down into the crimson broth with deep hesitation. He reminds himself that understanding commoner life requires sacrifice, slowly lifting a dripping piece of blood cake right up to his mouth. Will he actually manage to swallow it? Before the spoon even touches his tongue, an enraged shout shatters the peaceful morning. A hostile mob of former farmhands comes charging down the dirt trail. Armed with pitchforks and scythes, their eyes burn with pure fury. That should have been a quiet breakfast. Instead, violent trouble finds them first. Seeking freedom after escaping their past torment, a mob of furious farmhands charges forward armed with agricultural tools. They surround our boy, screaming demands for basic human rights under the assumption that the new owner is just another ruthless tyrant ready to enslave them. The violent mob leader slams his pitchfork into the dirt, roaring at the top of his lungs that they will never be slaves again. But our master chef just calmly chews his lunch. He stares back like they are insane, casually asking why they think they are slaves in the first place. The tense standoff instantly deflates. The angry mob scratches their heads in total confusion, realizing they have been tricked their whole lives and apologizing right on the spot. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Before our boy can even process this sudden surrender, a familiar boy steps out. It is young Rocky. Our boy smiles bright, realizing the little kid he spared earlier actually lives on this farm. The kid gives a cheerful thumbs up, thanking him for the promissory note that saved his family. Rocky turns to the mob leader and reveals our hero is the legendary village head of Evergreen. The tough father drops his weapon, bowing down deep to apologize for their terrible disrespect while offering heartfelt thanks for showing his young son leniency. Our hero laughs it off with total grace, reassuring the father that everything turned out great. That should have solved the problem. Instead, a loud stomach rumble echoes across the field as the starving workers clutch their empty bellies in deep embarrassment. If he doesn't cook for them now, who will? A confident smile creeps across our Lord's face because he knows exactly how to turn these rebellious farmhands into loyal followers, and it all starts with a hot meal. Our boy steps forward with a smile, offering the hungry men a steaming bowl of rich soup. The starving workers gulp down every drop like wild animals. That should have solved the problem. Instead, one small pot barely scratches the surface for this massive crowd. Without hesitating, our boy targets the field's untapped crop, ripping fresh potatoes straight out of the dirt. He peels them rapidly while assembling his secret seasoning bottles. If you want to conquer a rebellious army, you give them hot, heavy carbs. The blonde knight steps in to assist, but our lord gives him zero royal leniency. He commands the elite warrior to slice every potato evenly into paper-thin strips. Can a high-tier swordsman actually survive the strict demands of kitchen prep? The knight grips the kitchen knife, turning mundane prep work into a deadly display of martial speed and tactical control. Flashes of steel shred the potatoes into uniform strips in seconds. The stunned farmhands watch the elite warrior with wide eyes. With the ingredients prepped, our boy mixes the potato shreds into a dense batter using flour and salt. He presses the mix into a searing pan over open flames. The golden pancakes sizzle violently, filling the open field with an intoxicating scent. As the crust turns golden brown, he adds sliced Chungyang peppers to deliver a sharp, spicy kick. I honestly would not mind grabbing a slice for myself right now. The tactical dish is complete. Our boy proudly presents the hot plates to the mob, telling them to dip each piece into salty black sauce. The battle-hardened farmhands swallow hard, completely powerless against the aroma before tearing into the feast. But their problems are only just beginning. Dipping the golden crispy pancake into seasoned soy sauce, the rich garlic and spicy kick overpower every farmhand. The tough leader sheds actual tears, weeping, "It's so good," the crowd is completely hooked. Our boy smiles brightly as the hungry mob surrenders to his tactical cooking strategy. That should have solved the problem. Instead, our boy remembers his true mission and turns back to the crowd. He casually asks if any of them have plans to return to their hometowns now that they are free men. The farmhands freeze in silence, exchanging anxious looks as the question lands. Since the merchant guild paid their severance, they possess complete freedom. But freedom is terrifying without a home. Can a masterless farmhand survive out there alone? The leader nervously clasps his trembling hands, admitting they have spent their entire lives working this soil. They just want work. He humbly begs for permission to stay on this land and keep farming for their new master. Our boy grabs the man's hands, practically exploding with excitement. He admits he was terrified they would leave his land vacant. I honestly respect a boss who values good labor this much. He immediately offers an official employment contract right on the spot. Pulling out a feather quill, the little general drafts the terms right on the ground. He will take every harvest, paying their wages in pure gold coins 4 times a year. No fertilizer allowed. They must cultivate every crop naturally for his culinary needs. The leader stammers in disbelief. Farming without fertilizer sounds like economic suicide. Our hero stands firm, insisting it is mandatory. Seeing his absolute resolve, the veteran farmer's expression turns grave. He asks the young lord to follow him to witness a dark secret hidden on the farm. The farm leader guides the group to a secluded barn, swinging open the massive wooden doors to reveal endless sacks of unfertilized crops. Our boy stands in absolute shock. Expecting empty storehouses, he finds a massive hidden stockpile secretly cultivated behind their former master's back. The veteran farmer confesses they were preparing to flee this autumn after his son was forcibly dragged away and his family was starved on meager rations. Facing certain doom either way, they risked everything by growing raw organic crops, anxiously begging to know if these goods can actually be sold. Our boy bursts out laughing with pure joy, promising to pay them extra gold for this incredible bonus harvest. Seeing his master's delight, young Rocky steps forward and proudly presents a hand-drawn map detailing every crop plot and field location across the entire estate. Impressed by the child's incredible detail, our lord instantly recognizes the boy's natural talent for organization. If the kid learns basic literacy and numbers, he will easily handle the work of an adult administrator. Without missing a beat, the little general officially appoints Rocky as the head farm manager on the spot. He commands the kid to master reading, writing, and accounting, overwhelming the young boy with tears of gratitude. As the warm sunset bathes the countryside, the entire family falls to their knees in deep relief, offering endless thanks for a safe future freed from oppression. Meanwhile, inside a distant mercenary guild, news spreads of an unusual job posting originating from Evergreen. The commission specifically seeks a second-class mage capable of basic utility spells like alarm and copy. Sitting nearby, a mysterious blue-haired traveler strokes their chin, wondering why on earth a humble fishing village would ever need a mage. The guild worker warns that the rural assignment offers poor pay, leaving most mages uninterested despite 3 months of free room and board. But can a broke traveler turn down free lodging? Slamming her hands on the counter, the blue-haired mage eagerly takes the contract. The blue-haired mage steps into Evergreen to begin her 3-month commission. She expected a rundown, forgotten outpost. Instead, a vibrant coastal view catches her completely off guard, filling her with quiet awe. Is this really just a humble fishing village? Watching local children play under the clear sky, our visiting spellcaster takes a seat on a coastal bench. A gentle ocean breeze puts her mind at ease. She warmly congratulates herself for accepting this assignment. The calm atmosphere feels like a dream vacation, promising 3 quiet months of rest in the sun. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Her stomach roars violently, breaking the tranquil mood. Panic strikes immediately. Realizing she skipped breakfast and hours have slipped away, the hungry traveler scrambles to find a place selling decent food. If she collapses right here, I'm not helping her. Suddenly, a rich aroma drifts through the air. Her nose twitches, catching the delicious scent of golden butter and baked dough. Driven purely by hunger, the ravenous caster sprints toward the smell, ready to pay any price for a single bite. She peeks through an open window, expecting a quiet bakery. Instead, she witnesses absolute war inside. 3 grown men aggressively clash forks over a golden waffle on a plate. "I made it, so back off," the stressed cook shouts as brute force takes over. The young mage drops her jaw in shock. Full-grown men are ready to tear the room apart over baked batter. That should have been funny. Instead, her terror spikes as she realizes that single waffle is the last piece of food left, and her stomach is completely empty. Driven by intense hunger, our visiting spellcaster throws pride out the window. She channels her magic right through the glass, telekinetically snatching the golden waffle off the plate and devouring it whole before the men can even react. As she chews in absolute bliss, the entire kitchen falls deadly silent. The grown men stand completely frozen in shock, staring at the brazen thief who just swiped their prize meal right under their noses. Snapping back to reality, the blue-haired mage frantically buzzes and apologizes, introducing herself as Perot Diane, the third-class caster sent by the Mercenary Guild. Evergreen's village head, Dominic, warmly shakes her hand, instantly forgiving the dramatic intrusion. That should have solved the problem. Instead, Perot aggressively grabs Dominic, her eyes sparkling with pure obsession over the divine waffle. She frantically demands to know if these legendary snacks are included in her contract's free room and board. Dominic's expression darkens into a sinister smirk. An absolute golden opportunity has presented itself, and the young lord is already calculating how to exploit her weakness. If you ask me, that's pure villain behavior. A few days later, a newly repurposed building in Evergreen is buzzing with activity. Perot stands at the head of a bright classroom, happily grading papers and teaching the village children how to read and calculate basic math. Dominic's aide watches from outside in utter disbelief, noting that only a madman would hire a trained combat mage as an elementary tutor. But Dominic just walks away with a triumphant smirk. He recruited top-tier talent completely for free, paying her in nothing but leftover snacks. With construction wrapping up, the ambitious young lord walks the grounds with his aide to finalize opening strategy. To make this high-end retreat the talk of the realm, he needs an elite clientele. But marketing to top-tier nobility requires a flawless tactical angle. His grand design models the resort after a luxury recovery haven for noble women after childbirth. When his aide suggests inviting a local countess, the young strategist quickly declines. That case study simply will not generate the massive dramatic buzz he needs. Suddenly, a brilliant realization strikes our boy. Why limit his facility to expectant mothers when stress-plagued noblewomen everywhere are desperate for rejuvenation? If he selects a high-profile aristocrat who loves to gossip, word of mouth will explode across every noble estate. A devious smile settles on his face. There is really only one candidate for the job. A few weeks later, a luxurious horse-drawn carriage rolls into Evergreen. Inside sits Viscountess Noella, pleasantly surprised by how well-maintained the coastal outpost appears. But she did not travel all this way just to admire the sea view. Her elderly companion questions why they are wasting time at a remote coastal retreat. But the red-haired noblewoman is not here for leisure. She intends to poach Evergreen's brilliant master chef for herself, outbidding rival nobles to secure his legendary culinary talents. Knowing Countess Sinclair failed to recruit him, Noella plans to make an irresistible offer he cannot refuse. If you ask me, she is completely underestimating him. As her carriage pulls up, she prepares to make her move. Will our young lord accept her offer, or is she stepping right into his trap? Dominic greets Viscountess Noella with a polished bow, introducing himself as both resort manager and village head. When her elderly companion brings up Countess Sinclair's previous business, the young lord slickly addresses Noella as a VIP. The title catches the red-haired noblewoman completely off guard. Our boy chuckles smoothly, explaining that VIP is exclusive insider slang for a very important person, blaming his slip-up on pure nervousness before high nobility. That carefully timed flattery lands with surgical precision. Viscountess Noella hides a smug, delighted smile behind her fan, taking the bait instantly. Clapping his hands to summon the attendants, Dominic instructs the staff to carry their heavy luggage directly up to the suite. As they walk down the sparkling hall, Noella arrogantly tells herself this place is still just a glorified inn, expecting to be bored out of her mind for 3 days. That should have ended the encounter. Instead, as the unsuspecting guests walk away, our boy watches their backs with a sinister, triumphant grin. Is she really in control here? If you ask me, she just stepped right into his spiderweb. Her elitist attitude completely shatters the moment they enter the main quarters. Both visitors stand frozen with open mouths, utterly overwhelmed by the breathtaking scale of the resort building. The grand architecture rivals royal retreats, leaving them questioning if this could possibly be a mere inn. The staff guides them into a sprawling private suite, showcasing a high-end bedroom paired with a dedicated study. Then, the attendant sweeps open the window curtains, revealing a crystal blue coast and a private white sand beach reserved strictly for resort guests. Inside the luxury suite, Viscountess Noella and her companion hold hands tenderly, calling each other darling in pure bliss. The resort's romantic atmosphere completely wins them over, sweeping away every trace of noble snobbery. Is this retreat really just an inn? Meanwhile, up on a grassy hill overlooking the coast, Dominic kicks back on a lounge chair under the clear sky. When his aide questions his claims of victory, our boy smugly declares opening day a massive success as long as 0 complaints ruin the quiet atmosphere. That should have solved the problem. Instead, a furious scream instantly shatters the silence. Perrault storms onto the hill in a raging panic, stomping right up to the village head to yell at him for taking things way too far. The court mage storms in screaming bloody murder about her outrageous workload. Between teaching village children all morning, drilling staff on etiquette, and constructing complex magic devices, she has 0 time left to rest. She demands an immediate fix. Our boy stays completely unfazed by her fury. Instead of arguing back, he casually presents a fresh box of delicate, colorful macarons. She screams that simple sweets will never bribe her, but he moves fast and shoves one right into her mouth. Furious at how delicious it is, she stomps back to work while chewing angry bites. Nice payback, if you ask me. As she runs off, the young general casually requests a brand new temperature regulator for the private spa. Watching the exchange, the blonde knight can only shake his head in utter disbelief. Neither a chief bribing mages with pastries nor a mage falling for it is remotely normal. Later on the lounge chairs, he questions if noblewomen will ever agree to early morning workouts. Sounds simple, right? Our boy remains completely confident and bets 1 gold coin that highborn guests will happily join once the environment feels luxurious enough. The honorable warrior rejects trivial wagers until a quick jab at his courage forces him to accept. Come sunrise, the impossible unfolds along the shore. Wealthy noble ladies line the wooden deck, sweating on fitness mats and following every workout instruction. I believe I won the bet, so you may hand over that gold coin. The defeated knight reluctantly pays up. But that is when everything changes. A panicked staff member bursts into the resort, shouting that a massive emergency has just struck the village. Disaster strikes out of nowhere. A panicked staff member reveals that Lady Fowen has suddenly gone into labor a month and a half early. Our boy and the Golden Knight immediately sprint along the resort deck while grilling the attendant on medical preparations. The attendant confirms that the midwife, healer, and priest rushed straight to her private chambers following emergency protocols. Hearing that every team reacted according to his grand design, the little general smiles in relief. Nice planning, if you ask me. Now they just need to move fast. Inside the birthing suite, utter agony takes over. Lady Owen screams through crushing contractions while the midwife desperately coaches her breathing. Can she survive this sudden ordeal? Tears stream down her face as panic sets in. Because the delivery is coming far too early, intense dread grips her heart. What if her baby fails to enter the world safely? That is when radiant divine light envelops the entire bed. The head priest unleashes soothing magic, declaring the goddess of life is protecting mother and child. Feeling the holy aura steady her pulse, the mother locks in and resolves to push through the agony. Suddenly, a loud baby cry echoes across the entire grand mansion. Against all terrifying odds, the brave mother safely delivers a healthy newborn boy right into her arms. Victory! The miracle baby has arrived safely. By nightfall, news of the flawless emergency delivery spreads through the noble lounge like wildfire. Highborn ladies sipping tea marvel at how medical staff were already stationed for care before complications even hit. Sounds simple, right? Instead, this massive success transforms the resort into an elite VIP sanctuary. Inside the grand lounge, highborn ladies swap wild gossip about the resort's emergency birth protocols. They whisper in utter disbelief about how staff barred outside guests and draped heavy curtains around the bed, keeping the entire delivery strictly private for the mother. The revelation lands with crushing impact across high society. Up until now, noble mothers were forced to endure humiliating public birth spectacles under the guise of tradition. Realizing she can deliver her child in total privacy, the young noblewoman resolves to book her stay immediately. That single shift in custom changes everything. The world's very first postpartum care center spreads through elite noble circles like wildfire, completely filling every luxury room for months to come. If you ask me, turning an emergency delivery into top-tier luxury is pure tactical genius. Back inside the village office, our boy flashes a devious goblin grin while counting up his mountain of fresh gold earnings. With autumn reservations completely booked solid, his crushing mountain of debt is finally about to be wiped off the ledger for good. That is when the discussion turns to constructing a brand new local temple dedicated to the goddess of life. Because grateful noble mothers leave massive financial donations after safe deliveries, the priesthood offers to cover all construction costs to strengthen their deity's holy presence in the region. That is a complete no-brainer, the 9-year-old menace declares, urging them to approve the sanctuary immediately. The veteran elder smiles warmly, opting to consult the villagers first while knowing full well that no sane person would ever reject free divine protection. With the temple project approved, the village elder excuses himself to inspect the local seaweed processing plant. Watching him leave, the blonde knight quietly pulls an aide aside to test his loyalty, asking, "Do you trust the chief, despite his lack of formal education?" The loyal aide defends the elder's sharp flexibility over rigid book learning, forcing the warrior to admit that open-minded leaders offer crucial wisdom. Never missing an opportunity, our boy smirks and asks, "Does that not make me a rather excellent teacher?" Playfully shrugging off the knight's dry comeback, the 9-year-old menace opens a fresh business blueprint on his desk. Seeing handwritten notes detailing pure, unenhanced vegetable dishes, the blonde knight leans in close, asking if he plans to open a simple dining establishment. That should have solved the problem. Instead, our boy explains that basic resort services are far too easy for rich rivals to copy. To build an industry completely impossible to imitate, the little general raises a finger and announces his true goal: tourism. Meanwhile, high above the realm at Sinclair Castle's training tower, booming laughter rattles the stone walls. News of our boy using resort investments to build a private birth sanctuary has reached the legendary elite, leaving them utterly baffled by his sheer nerve. Reading the report, the meat-obsessed old lord chuckles. I cannot tell if the boy is remarkably bold or simply insane. Having spent years hiding away from high society vermin, the grizzled titan grips his sword and decides it is finally time to leave his tower. Inside Sinclair Castle's training tower, radiant aura ignites along the blade. Having broken through his limits to become a true swordmaster, the grizzled titan grins in triumph and prepares to visit his grandson. He means business. Meanwhile, a horse carriage travels down the quiet forest road. The 9-year-old menace turns to his companion, promising a dead-serious business proposal. Sounds simple, right? The blonde knight just groans, bracing himself for another round of ridiculous chaos. If you ask me, our boy never misses a chance to recruit elite muscle. He flashes a confident thumb up and drops his ultimate pitch. Would you consider relocating your permanent base to our village? To seal the deal, he offers an endless supply of spicy tteokbokki. On the dusty trail toward the regional assembly, our culinary mastermind tries bribing his blonde escort with endless tteokbokki. He even offers to hand over his official title as village chief right on the spot just to turn around. The stern officer shuts down the ridiculous proposal without skipping a beat. These mandatory summons feel like a massive waste of breath to our boy, but complaining out loud only earns him a sharp order to watch his tongue. The official insists face-to-face check-ins are mandatory to stop fraud. Letters are easily forged. Our boy can only slump back in annoyance at this primitive medieval bureaucracy. If he doesn't lose his mind to administrative nonsense first, I'll be surprised. When the officer claims his lordship holds him in remarkably high regard, the frustrated chef hits back with a sharp reality check. Then why do I end up getting kidnapped every time I turn around? Reaching the assembly room provides zero relief. The second our young general steps through the door, the enthusiastic local lord lights up with glowing excitement, beaming at the star of the show. He immediately tries to lock down tonight's business meeting on his own tab. The desperate nobles start aggressively shoving each other aside to pitch high-stakes deals. They brag about iron mines, offer endless drinks, and beg for priority resort reservations before anyone else can lock down a contract. Trapped right in the crossfire of screaming lords threatening to settle their business with fists on the roof, our boy stands completely overwhelmed. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. Before the argument turns into an absolute brawl, the senior steward steps in with a final announcement. His lordship just finished an urgent strategy session. Hearing that official title, every complaining chief shuts their mouth and falls right back in line. He lays down an official decree right in front of them. Before autumn arrives, a massive monster subjugation campaign will sweep through the region. Every single village is ordered to gear up immediately. The chiefs burst into loud excitement, leaving our boy completely baffled by their enthusiasm. Isn't a monster hunt lethal business? An old chief explains that natural barriers shield the south, making these rare sweeps an incredible event rather than a disaster. Why is everyone smiling over bloodshed? Simple answer: money. The army procures all provisions, supplies, and labor directly from local villages. Sounds simple, right? Not for our boy. He slumps as he realizes Evergreen has practically nothing to offer. Before he can finish sulking, the steward drops a sudden shocker. His lordship has summoned Chief Dominic for an exclusive private audience. As jealous lords glare in envy, armor-clad guards scoop up our helpless chef away like cargo. If he doesn't lose his mind, I'll be amazed. Inside the lord's grand estate, our boy kneels beside his blonde escort on the royal blue carpet. The lord sits high on his throne, getting right to the point about the upcoming campaign. With a sharp grin, the ruler pitches a personal deal straight to him. Dominic stammers back in complete surprise. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. The regional ruler drops an absolute bombshell right onto the floor. He wants Dominic to step up as the head field cook for the entire campaign force. When our chef nervously tries shifting responsibility to the castle's elite kitchen staff, his lordship shuts him down. See, the lord hasn't forgotten how Dominic fed and cured the troops during their recent live training exercises. Dominic's jaw tightens as real dread sets in. Saving an army from a massive outbreak is coming back to haunt him. This is thankless, grueling labor with practically zero profit margin. Why suffer in the field when his luxury resort already brings in endless gold? Beside him on the carpet, the blonde knight's face darkens into pure murderous rage. Is this mere village chief actually daring to hesitate before his lordship? Watching our boy waver, the ruler chuckles. Gold coins won't buy this talent. Realizing the danger, Dominic instantly slams his forehead into the carpet. He stammers out that he only worries about failing the ruler's expectations. Sounds convincing, right? The lord smiles warmly, promising a compensation far beyond simple coin, something Evergreen desperately needs. Sensing a trap, our young chief plays modest, claiming his settlement is just a tiny rural village with zero defenses. His lordship chuckles at the sob story. If Evergreen isn't struggling, then lowering their taxes won't be necessary. Did he just say tax cuts? Dominic's soul nearly leaves his body. Before the lord can finish his sentence, our desperate chef screams out in complete horror, praising his lordship's infinite grace at maximum volume. The escort knight stands completely bewildered by the sudden 180. If he doesn't lose his mind, I'll be amazed. Dominic strolls out of the audience chamber satisfied, leaving his elite escort frozen in shock over his shameless audacity. As they walk down the grand corridor, our boy casually probes into local titles. The high-strung knight immediately draws his blade, growling. Are you plotting treason? Dominic just picks his ear, completely unbothered. Shifting focus back to tactical prep, our culinary mastermind asks the knight for intel on monster subjugation campaigns. He needs solid intelligence to prepare his field kitchen. The stoic warrior turns his head away, quietly admitting this campaign is his first time in the field too. Catching the hardened guard blushing in pure embarrassment, our boy snickers right in his face. Is this tough escort actually a complete rookie out in the wild? Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Realizing the high-ranking knight knows zero practical logistics, Dominic immediately pivots strategy. If royal rewards depend entirely on army satisfaction, he must gather tactical intel straight from the frontline soldiers themselves. He tracks down a familiar red-haired soldier from the previous training drills. After confirming the guards finally learned to cook their shellfish thoroughly without poisoning themselves again, our young chief gets straight down to business. Our little general pulls out his notepad to run a direct field survey. Is there any particular field meal the soldiers would love? If I were him, I'd write down every detail. The frontline grunt chuckles back, explaining that brutal combat drills and long marches leave the men completely exhausted. They will gladly scarf down whatever food they get. But that is when everything changes. The red-haired grunt explains how neighboring armies flex lavish meat stews during joint campaigns while their own troops chew on dry bread. Realizing this field kitchen is actually an aggressive territorial competition, our culinary mastermind starts furiously taking notes. This is a matter of pride. Determined to outshine every rival territory, Dominic plans a high-end menu featuring soft wheat bread, thick stew, and fresh fruit. He's going all out to dominate the front lines. The stoic knight instantly drops a harsh dose of reality onto his hype. Has our boy completely forgotten about financial limits? The officer tells him to check with the royal treasurer before spending gold he doesn't possess. Inside the estate treasury, our young chief receives his official budget allocation paper. Staring down at the painfully microscopic allowance, Dominic's face turns pale with utter horror. That this is all I receive? That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. See, back in his past life, our modern nutritionist knew true misery. Menu planning was a constant nightmare. Stubborn kitchen staff refused to follow orders, every drop of oil was nervously measured, and ungrateful students complained that the school next door got lobster. Talk about zero appreciation. Fast forward to the present, and our culinary strategist faces the exact same headache. Staring at the pathetic budget numbers, his jaw drops as he blurts out, "Is this really it?" The veteran administrator calmly explains that Lord Sinclair ordered the military food budget capped to match neighboring Viscount Delt. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Viscount Delt controls one of the most fertile territories in the entire empire. Starvation is unheard of there, but that luxury created a serious military weakness. With full stomachs, their comfortable soldiers refused to train, even using their sharp swords to cut wheat in the fields. Delt had to hire mercenaries, which secretly wounded his noble pride. Desperate to redeem his standing during the last monster subjugation, Delt executed a clever tactical gamble. He overhauled his soldiers' meals. Serving high-quality rations completely revolutionized troop morale on the battlefield. The outcome was a resounding victory that caught every neighboring noble by surprise. But that is when everything changes for our master chef as the full picture locks into place. Sinclair County was built by generations of elite knights, yet the current lord is a civil official, getting outshined by a rival territory not in military might, but in soldier food. If someone humiliated me like that, I would be furious too. Now our guy finally understands the real motivation behind this strict budget constraint. They need high-quality meals to restore morale without overspending. Armed with modern science, he confidently declares, "I think I know what I need to do now." But with Delt's lower ingredient costs, his battle is far from easy. Modern kitchen logic dictates you cannot outmatch cheap local produce using basic ingredients alone. Sitting up late into the night, our culinary strategist chews nervously on 2 pens while furiously crossing out expensive recipes in his ledger. Every traditional dish requires costly imported spices that instantly destroy his strict budget. How can he beat Viscount Delt when the financial math is completely stacked against him? Interrupting his intense calculations, the blonde knight strides into the office with major news. He casually reveals that Lord Sinclair appointed him to command the entire military operation, but our boy responds with a deadpan stare and total disrespect. I love watching him roast this arrogant knight. Pretending to care about frontline safety, the little general warns him that getting exposed in combat would be embarrassing. Before the knight can boast about his aura manipulation skills, our lead dismisses him with a dismissive wave and returns to his ledger. The proud warrior can only sigh in defeat. Things got off on the wrong foot from the very beginning. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. Standard recipes will never win this tactical battle under strict financial caps. He needs a revolutionary approach. The next morning, the anxious administrator reviews the minimal food order with deep concern. Fearing the troop rations will taste completely bland, he offers to pay for extra spices out of his own pocket. But our strategist slams his hand on the table. Accepting charity destroys Lord Sinclair's dignity. Armed with a crazy idea, he demands a blacksmith, a carpenter, and an alcohol lamp. Meanwhile, high up in the mountain valley, a massive military encampment spreads across the green fields. Armored commanders laugh and greet each other outside the headquarters tent as troops arrive after a long march. The upcoming campaign is about to begin. Arriving at the joint command post, Lord Sinclair is immediately ambushed by Viscount Delt's passive-aggressive greeting. The plump noble smoothly questions why a commander of such elite knights would bother leaving his cozy mansion to brave the front lines. Never one to take an insult lying down, Lord Sinclair fires right back with a razor-sharp smirk. He casually claims he only came to inspect his troops' battle readiness, and to witness the Viscount's legendary military genius up close. That burn hits Delt right in his fragile pride. Sparks practically ignite between their eyes as both leaders lock glares with sinister grins. Watching two grown commanders throw high-stakes temper tantrums in public leaves their surrounding bodyguards sweating in total disbelief. Talk about a crazy level of petty noble drama. Before this silent duel turns into an actual fist fight, an exhausted commander hastily steps between them. He desperately urges both stubborn leaders to drop the hostile greetings and focus on dinner first. Settling inside the headquarters tent, Viscount Delt immediately starts blowing his own horn. He preaches tactics from a strategy book, bragging that capturing a soldier's heart starts with filling their belly, all while fake sighing about how expensive good rations are. This guy loves hearing himself talk. That should have put Lord Sinclair on the defensive. Instead, our cool lord sees right through the trap and counters without flinching. As the ruler of the Southern Territory's elite army, he proudly guarantees his troops always march on full stomachs. That is when Viscount Delt springs his malicious trap. Grinning like a villain, he demands to personally inspect Sinclair County's high-grade troop rations right now. Unfazed, Lord Sinclair returns a confident smirk as the first metal serving trays reach the table. The culinary battle has officially begun. Viscount Delt arrogantly unveils his soldiers' high-end menu, showing off cured ham from pork foreleg, rich bean stew, root vegetable soup, and fresh bread. Watching the lavish spread, even Sinclair's knights can't hide their amazement that any territory could produce such quality on a tight budget. Smirking triumphantly, the plump noble preaches that high-quality ingredients mean nothing if a terrible head chef ruins the meal. He takes full credit for his military's culinary breakthrough, while the surrounding knights listen in silent tension. Suddenly, Delt shouts out to shock the entire tent, completely dropping his polite act. Grinning like a villain, he mockingly asks if an elite military territory like Sinclair County can actually hope to keep up with his famed troop meals, demanding Lord Sinclair give him guidance. Talk about maximum arrogance. That should have backed Lord Sinclair into a corner. Instead, our cool lord smiles calmly. He smoothly invites his rival to march straight to the frontline mess hall and inspect Sinclair County's military rations with his own eyes, confident in his secret weapon. Meanwhile, out in the field kitchen, our reincarnated strategist is losing his mind. A sudden VIP inspection on day one kicks his past-life military PTSD into overdrive. He frantically screams at the troops to clean the area and hide every single slop bucket before the high-ranking nobles arrive. Watching our boy direct the chaos with absolute military precision, the blonde knight commander grows suspicious. Is it really normal for a young nutritionist to command battle-hardened soldiers with such effortless authority? Before he can solve that mystery, the noble inspection team strides into the mess area. Lord Sinclair casually tells his troops to dispense with formalities and keep eating, but the moment Viscount Delt catches a glimpse of the actual rations, his jaw drops in total disbelief. Back at headquarters, the administrator questions why our culinary strategist urgently needs weak alcohol burners alongside local blacksmiths and carpenters. But our boy isn't building siege weapons. He is laying the groundwork for a tactical revolution that this medieval world has never witnessed before. With a smug grin, the modern genius unveils the chafing dish, rolling out an unprecedented outdoor buffet. Instead of choking down cold, lifeless rations, troops line up to pick and choose piping hot gourmet dishes served right on the field. Nice payback for their hard work. The visiting commanders freeze in total shock at the sight. They watch small alcohol flames keep the pans sizzling while soldiers freely select their own meals. Can you really blame them for being mesmerized? This is a crazy level of disrespect to traditional military dining. The local commander proudly boasts about his chef, insisting this setup proves genuine care for his men. But the meat-obsessed old lord narrows his eyes, utterly convinced that serving such luxury must be draining the territory's military budget dry. That should have solved the issue. Instead, it creates a bigger one. The commander drops a massive bombshell, declaring their overall food budget is identical to the Baron's modest spending, then calls our boy forward to clear the air. This is it. Our brilliant strategist realizes this moment is his golden ticket to securing a massive tax reduction. But as he steps forward under intense scrutiny, the skeptical lord demands to know if they secretly received extra emergency funding. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. The commander shuts down the suspicion, insisting every single dish was prepared strictly within their standard allowance. Now all eyes lock onto our young general to explain how efficiency turned cheap ingredients into an imperial feast. The meat-obsessed old lord loses his mind, shouting that serving this many menu options on a standard budget is dead impossible. But our boy calmly steps forward, bowing to his commander for permission to break down the financial strategy. He directly admits that menu variety usually pushes costs sky high, but reveals he aggressively slashed expenses in another area entirely. The skeptical lords narrow their eyes in suspicion, demanding to know what could possibly be cut without ruining the food. With a confident smirk, Lil Bro singles out the biggest money pit in traditional military dining, kitchen manpower. The visiting commanders freeze in absolute disbelief. Cut staff? How could fewer hands manage to feed an entire army? See, feeding hundreds of troops requires massive labor for prep, serving, and cleanup, burning gold on wages and supplies alike. I know what you were thinking. Won't fewer workers paralyze the kitchen? Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. That is where the chafing buffet changes the game entirely. By letting soldiers serve themselves, distribution labor vanishes in an instant, giving the cook staff maximum time to transform cheap ingredients into an imperial feast. That should have solved the problem. Instead, it creates a bigger one. The old lord argues that top-grade meals still demand expensive ingredients, forcing our young strategist to reveal his true tactical compromise. Recalling his humble early days struggling against starvation, he prioritized sheer volume over luxury components. He swapped out pricey delicacies so every single soldier could fill their stomach without a single man left behind. Flashy gourmet tricks mean nothing if troops starve on the front lines. With a radiant smile, the little general declares his ultimate rule: everyone eats well. And just like that, the hardened war commanders are left completely speechless. He explains that exhausted soldiers do not need delicate gourmet flavors. They need heavy salt and intense seasoning to instantly replenish lost energy. By utilizing affordable mid-grade ingredients enhanced with bold spices, every single plate delivers maximum satisfaction without blowing the military budget. The meat-obsessed old lord listens intently, a cold sweat breaking across his face as the strategy sinks in. He cannot find a single flaw. Lowering his head in total submission, the proud noble admits he learned a valuable tactical lesson today. Our boy exhales in relief, looking up to confirm if his risky play worked. The veteran commander flashes a broad, triumphant grin. Their rival's overbearing arrogance has been completely crushed. Later that night, the clever chef relaxes under the moonlight with a bottle of sweet liquor. Honestly, I can't blame him for celebrating after putting that arrogant lord in his place. Their rival will certainly think twice before ever stepping foot in their territory again. He pulls out the official decree and reads the ultimate reward for his brilliance. Evergreen's tax rate is slashed down to 20% for the next 3 years. Target achieved. The little general throws his hands up in wild celebration, declaring it official vacation time. Lounging comfortably on the grass, Lil Bro envisions fried chicken to pair with his booze just as his trusted knight returns from patrol. Seeing our boy thoroughly tipsy, the knight deadpans, demanding to know exactly how much alcohol he consumed. The knight sternly warns him that they are surrounded by untamed wilderness and straying far from camp is dangerous. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Our drunk strategist just smirks back, foolishly asking what monster would ever dare attack a massive army camp. Staggering back tipsy under the night sky, our young strategist boldly boasts that his knight will shield him from any danger. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. He immediately catches his boot on a stray rock and tumbles helplessly down the steep slope, crashing hard into the dirt. Up on the ridge, the anxious knight shouts down to check on his chief, warning him once again about heavy drinking. Our bruised strategist groans in pain, rubbing his battered head as he slowly sits up in the dark. Before he can recover, the knight screams at him to freeze. Thick, viscous saliva drips directly onto our boy's shoulder. He turns around slowly, coming face to face with a massive Groot spider, a deadly predator that hunts blindly through sound. With his lord trapped in danger, the loyal knight slams his foot down, roaring to draw total attention away. The entire horde snaps toward the noise, abandoning their prey to charge straight up the hill at the lone warrior. Taking a calm breath, the master swordsman draws his weapon with lethal speed. A massive blue arc of sword aura tears across the battlefield, cleanly slicing through the horde and obliterating every monster in an instant. Our young general gazes in absolute awe as dust settles around the slaughtered beasts. Honestly, I can't blame him when his bodyguard sheathes his blade and drops an overly dramatic line, causing Lil Bro to shudder and instantly take back his praise. Reaching down, the knight offers a hand and pulls his chief back to his feet, checking if he suffered any injuries. Our boy exhales in relief, offering sincere thanks to his trusted warrior for stepping in right on time. Without losing a single second, the knight orders our boy to tag along and report this sudden monster threat directly to the commander. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. Looking out over the darkened horizon, a grim reality sets in. If a monster queen is preparing to molt and emerge, their victory celebration is about to end in total catastrophe. Night falls over the war camp as alarming reports confirm 22 monstrous Groot spiders invading the nearby terrain. Fortunately, alert guards spot the creature horde before any blood is spilled, but peace in the camp shatters instantly. That relief fades fast. See, these venomous beasts usually lurk deep within mountain caverns and rarely trek into open air. For a full swarm to abandon their dark nests, an unknown disaster must have struck the high peaks. Sir Hanover steps up to brief the high command on the impending danger. He warns that this unnatural migration signals the rise of a queen. Following a fresh molt, her entire nest moves aggressively across the land to gather massive food hordes and restore her full strength. The armored lords try to brush off the threat as a simple monster hunt. That should have settled their worries. Instead, Hanover drops a truth that stops everyone cold. The supreme lord of this ravenous army is no ordinary arachnid. It is a sentinel acid, a massive mutant giant centipede. The strategic meeting turns dead silent. Why in the world would thousands of spiders risk their lives to feed their deadliest natural predator? Our boy casually steps up to drop some basic biology on the room. He reminds the bewildered generals that wild centipedes feed heavily on spiders. The panicked officers guess the spiders are offering up sacrifices to avoid getting devoured. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. If he doesn't educate these stubborn warriors, nobody will. Our master nutritionist immediately dismantles their foolish theory, revealing that spiders hoard decaying meat solely for themselves, which means their real problem is only just beginning. Our boy drops another truth bomb on the War Council. Centipedes never eat rotting meat. The generals stare down at the tactical map in utter confusion, completely stumped by the swarm's unnatural behavior. That is when a horrifying realization strikes him. He poses a chilling question to the high command. What if that food isn't meant for the centipede at all? If the spiders are gathering massive meat hordes to summon an even deadlier apex monster, this entire war camp is doomed. The commander immediately snaps into action, ordering an elite scouting party of high-ranking warriors to march into the mountain range. Their mission is absolute: uncover the truth behind the monster horde and execute the mutant giant centipede before it strikes. That should have solved the problem. Instead, the commander turns around and drafts our master nutritionist right into the elite strike force. Before he can even protest, he finds himself thrust into the dark wilderness holding a heavy broadsword. The reluctant chief screams in total outrage across the forest canopy, prompting Sir Hanover to sternly silence him before they attract nearby beasts. Is it too late to turn back now? Not a chance. Disobeying military orders carries a maximum penalty of death. The blonde knight cold-heartedly informs him that he is now official military personnel. Talk about terrible job benefits. If he tries to flee, he faces execution on the spot. Pushed past his breaking point, our 9-year-old menace throws a complete temper tantrum and hurls his weapon straight into the sky. Hanover calmly promises to guard him in combat, provided he uses his insect knowledge to keep the knights alive. Our boy desperately tries to recall anything useful about centipedes from his former life. Suddenly, high-pitched shrieks shatter the silence as massive wyverns circle above the tree line. Hanover calmly identifies the airborne beasts and orders the squad to locate the spider nest before darkness settles over the high peaks. A scout calls out from a nearby ridge, guiding the elite party directly to the monster nest. That should have solved their search. Instead, an ungodly stench hits them like a physical wall as swarms of insects hover around the cavern entrance. Deep inside the cavern lies a horrifying mountain of decaying goblins and wild beasts. Hanover turns to our resident expert for quick answers. Looking over the rotting feast, our master nutritionist realizes the terrifying truth. To consume a horde this massive, the feeding predator must be absolutely colossal. Before anyone can analyze the corpses, violent tremors shake the cavern floor. Our boy nervously smiles, asking, It's probably just an earthquake, right, Sir Knight? Is he in denial? Absolutely. But that is when everything changes as the blonde knight grips his sword with killer intensity. The ground violently ruptures into a massive cloud of dust and debris. Out from the shattered earth rises the dread sentinel acid, a giant purple armored monster with glowing pink eyes and deadly mandibles. Hanover roars, "Everyone prepare for battle!" Our 9-year-old menace loses his mind in total panic. If you ask me, those warriors are severely outmatched. Steel blades flash as the elite knights charge head-on to protect the nearby territory. They have to strike with everything they have to slay the beast before it fully emerges from the dark subterranean depths. The elite knights charge head-on into battle, while our 9-year-old menace shamelessly flees to protect his own skin. Sir Hanover orders the little chief to sprint back and request backup from command. That should have solved his immediate concern. Instead, the blonde knight performs an insane high jump straight onto the giant monster's neck. Horrified shrieks shatter the forest as battle-weary soldiers pull their bloody wounded out of the fray. The mutant beast thrashes violently, sending armored men crashing like trash into the dust. If he doesn't want them slaughtered, I guess he better think of something fast. Our boy realizes standard sword strikes are completely useless. Sir Hanover fights with ruthless intensity, but the monster's speed is absurd and its shell is impenetrable. At this rate, every single warrior on the battlefield will get wiped out. Suddenly, a vital memory from his former life flashes before his eyes. See, back in his military days, a sergeant fed live centipedes to chickens to boost their health. Centipedes prey on spiders, chickens devour centipedes, and humans feast on the birds. That is the ultimate law of the jungle. Snapping back to the present, our master nutritionist looks up at the massive wyverns circling the high peaks. Sounds simple, right? If farm birds eat normal bugs, then airborne reptiles are the natural apex predator, designed to exterminate giant centipedes. Hanover drives his sword down and roars tactical commands to the struggling unit. Aim for the joints between its segments. He tries to order a swift retreat for the wounded knights, but his sentence cuts short as a chilling terror grips the field. With total chaos engulfing the battlefield, our boy refuses to simply flee into the dark. Seeing standard sword strikes fail against impenetrable monster armor, the 9-year-old menace sparks an improvised firebomb. He stands his ground amidst the swirling dust, clutching the blazing bottle with intense determination. If heavy steel cannot pierce the creature's thick shell, a sudden explosion might be their only salvation. But with an unstoppable behemoth raging across the dark mountain forest, can this reckless gamble actually turn the tide before everyone gets wiped out? The entire front line descends into madness as cold sweat drips down the noble commander's face. Instead of fleeing along with the rest of the squad, Dominic steps forward holding a makeshift incendiary bottle. He takes aim. Our young strategist readies a high-stakes throw to force an opening against the terrifying creature. The blonde officer yells out in disbelief when he sees the lit fuse right behind him. Dominic launches the glass explosive with everything he has got. That should have solved the problem. Instead, the wild bottle arcs directly toward his own commanding officer. "You threw it wrong." With the burning jar flying straight toward his head, the captain vaults off the centipede's back. He slices the airborne bottle midair. Can this guy get any cooler? If you ask me, that is ridiculous combat reflexes. The ignited chemical compound cascades over the monster. The giant centipede roars violently as white-hot fire consumes its armor. The captain lands hard on the dirt right next to our boy. He survived the explosion, but his pride takes a massive hit. "You bastard, you threw a firebomb at me." The blonde superior snaps, attempting to assert his authority amidst the chaos. But our young strategist grabs his shoulder and forcibly drags him toward cover. Rank protocol means nothing when you are standing in an active danger zone. A terrifying screech reverberates from the sky, forcing both of them to look up. Sounds simple, right? Not exactly. A flock of massive winged wyverns swoops down from the clouds to join the slaughter. The situation devolves into an absolute nightmare. The captain draws his rapier with a grim glare, preparing to embrace an honorable demise. Dominic yells at him like he completely lost his mind. "Some chickens showed up and you're the ones panicking?" To a modern nutritionist, centipedes feast on spiders and large birds feast on centipedes. It is basic ecological logic. Dominic shouts for everyone to clear out so nobody gets crushed in a fight between giants. High in the sky, the winged predators swoop down through the rising smoke, locking their eyes directly on the burning monster. Natural hierarchy is taking over the battlefield. The massive wyverns sink their razor-sharp fangs straight into the centipede's shattered armor, crunching through the carapace without hesitation. The giant beast never stood a chance. Nature works fast. Watching safely from the tree line, the blonde officer gapes at the sudden turn of events. He turns toward our young strategist in complete disbelief, asking how in the world a humble village head could predict this precise ecological outcome. Dominic breaks down basic biological logic for the noble officer. Since the winged beasts entered the mountain range for mating season, they will aggressively hunt down any nearby monsters to secure food for their young. That is pure ecological strategy. The officer can only listen in stunned silence. With the immediate crisis resolved, Lil Bro shifts right back to business. He flashes an eager, greedy grin and asks the captain about his payout for saving the entire squad from slaughter. If you ask me, he deserves every single coin. At the military assembly, the armored commander publicly praises Dominic's quick thinking for preventing a single casualty. But since our boy is a civilian, army regulations prevent him from getting a proper rank promotion. They settle on giving him a centurion's cash bonus and a silver medal while the soldiers cheer around them. Dominic's face instantly turns pale with utter disappointment. Is that really all? He risked his neck against giant monsters for a piece of metal. His furious scream reverberates across the entire mountain range. Staring down at the shiny silver badge, our young strategist mutters in frustration over his disappointing compensation. A metal trinket cannot fund a village empire, except his problems are only just beginning. Lying back inside the military tent, our boy stares bitterly at his shiny silver medal, grumbling about how regular soldiers end up doing all the exhausting work. The blonde officer steps inside, asking what the young village head could possibly be dissatisfied with this time. Dominic sits up on his cot, asking if the officer will remain in command of the unit from now on. The knight clarifies that military authority was returned to the Lord, meaning he must resume his original duty to protect Dominic. Wasn't that just high-level surveillance? Lil Bro attempts to offer sympathy, assuming the noble knight was demoted and stripped of his battlefield achievements. He holds up his silver badge with a casual gesture, asking why the officer considers such a small metal trinket to be a serious reward. That silver medal is awarded to those who achieve great merit. The knight explains that the badge is far more than a symbolic honor. It serves as an official military contract, guaranteeing that the single most valuable spoil of war goes directly to its owner. Dominic freezes. The single most valuable prize from the entire battle was the giant centipede's indestructible carapace, meaning the rare monster armor now belongs entirely to him. Lord, may you live a long life. Our boy drops to his knees on the bed, frantically praising the Lord's generosity. If you ask me, he changed his tune real fast. With official permission granted by the Lord, Lilbra boards a carriage and heads back home to Evergreen while the army finishes the cleanup operation. Peaceful days return to the seaside territory. It is the exact quiet routine our strategist had been longing for. Back in his personal kitchen, our modern nutritionist fires up the stove to craft a culinary masterwork. He aggressively tosses fresh seafood over roaring flames, filling the room with heat before drenching handcrafted noodles in a rich red broth. Wah! That smell is insane! Our young strategist serves piping hot bowls of handcrafted seafood noodles to his ravenous squad. Smell that heat? That is modern culinary science at work. The village elder and the blonde knight dive right into their wooden bowls without hesitation, completely helpless against the irresistible, burning aroma. The blue-haired girl huffs frantically against the intense heat, her cheeks stuffed full while struggling to breathe through the spice. Meanwhile, the bearded lord slurps his portion down with total delight. Lil Bro chuckles, asking how a high nobleman adapted so naturally to living at a humble seaside resort. Dominic fires off a blunt medical warning, reminding the commander that rich seafood broth triggers severe gout. The arrogant lord scoffs right back, boasting that the hardened body of a master swordsman fears no physical ailment. Is high medical risk really a joke to him? If you ask me, our boy can only roll his eyes at the old veteran's absurd pride. When asked about his return date, the Lord announces he plans to stay long-term for the upcoming Centipede Carapace Auction Festival. The village elder steps forward, asking if holding such a massive monster trade inside their humble village is truly smarter than shipping the rare spoils straight to the capital. Dominic drops a total economic bombshell. Hosting the grand auction right here in Evergreen will net more than double the profits compared to selling in the capital. The entire room gasps in complete disbelief. Our sharp village head flashes a confident smirk, ordering everyone to sit tight and listen carefully. Travelers finally reach the high grassy ridge overlooking Evergreen, having expected nothing more than a sleepy, impoverished fishing village. Instead, a sprawling, magnificent territory spreads out beneath the bright blue sky. Stepping directly into the vibrant market streets, the visitors quickly realize this place operates on a completely different level. Local vendors immediately swarm the arriving travelers with unbeatable deals, serving up steaming noodle bowls paired with free glasses of rice wine. The intense aroma of charcoal grilled meat sandwiches has everyone drooling on the spot. Unable to resist these mouth-watering temptations, the group agrees to split up for an hour to feast. When the hour is up, every single traveler returns carrying massive paper bags packed to the brim with local goods and snacks. They look at each other's overwhelming haul and burst into laughter, realizing everyone fell for the exact same merchant tactics. High above the plaza, two figures watch them from a balcony. Standing high up on the terrace, our young general gazes down at the packed streets with absolute satisfaction. If he keeps manipulating the market like this, I am definitely on board. He calmly accepts a fresh cup of newly released tea from his loyal servant, taking a slow sip as his strategy unfolds. Back inside the council chamber, advisors panic, warning that heavy capital taxes and local auction limits will inevitably crush their profit margins. Sounds like a dead end, right? But our culinary mastermind just smirks back, declaring, the auction isn't the important part, it's the demand it brings. The council advisors stare in total confusion, but our young general calmly breaks down his master plan step by step. Hosting an auction for a rare giant centipede carapace in a remote territory forces wealthy visitors to stay, eat, and spend heavy cash. Traveled merchants will end up spending massive gold on local lodging, food, and daily goods for extra days. Realizing the huge revenues heading their way, the bearded lord tries recruiting our boy on the spot, offering an administrator position, but Lilbro rejects the offer with a smile. I like being the village head. Later that afternoon, our ambitious strategist kicks back outside with a fresh cup of luxury tea. He rushed construction of a high-end 3-story tea house using heavy magic tools to serve as the village landmark. Expensive investment? Sure, but profits are already pouring in. Tomorrow marks the official eve of the birth festival. Can this massive celebration really pass without any unwanted trouble? Personally, I wouldn't bet on it. The sacred event brings priests of the goddess of life directly to the resort. Their holy presence is meant to bless the young children and pray for the long-term health of the entire territory. Naturally, our greedy lead sees nothing but another incredible business opportunity. With holy priests giving blessings, every single parent will happily purchase a protective amulet. I can hear the money rolling in. He kicks his boots up on his lounge chair, already dreaming of a lazy early retirement. But his peaceful afternoon shatters instantly as hostile yelling erupts right down in the market plaza. A heated quarrel erupts down in the packed square as 3 arrogant traveling merchants attempt to bully a local shopkeeper out of her prime vendor spot. They even threaten physical violence against a woman, but they picked the absolute wrong target today. Watching from the high terrace, our boy's companion pales in utter horror. The foolish thugs double down, flexing their fists with arrogant grins. Sounds simple for them, right? Not exactly. In a sudden flash of violence, the former vice captain of the Kalan mercenaries slams their face first into the stone floor, leaving his entire crew groaning on the cobblestones. Absolute destruction. Our young general rushes down the steps to prevent an actual murder scene in his market. Edelyn turns around with a sweet smile, casually admitting she held back from snapping their spines. I have to admit, that is pretty terrifying. The bloody thug leader staggers to his feet, trying to play the victim in front of the crowd. He dramatically cries out, accusing the territory of ostracizing honest merchants who came to enrich the festival. Our boy folds his arms, shutting down the lies on the spot. He saw every single detail from the upper balcony. Realizing an enraged mercenary is still glaring behind him, the bully stammers in fear. The coward tries bargaining for a prime trading spot across the plaza instead. That should have solved the problem. Instead, our 9-year-old menace picks his ear in complete disgust. Will he really let this extortion slide? Stunned by the ruthless pushback, the bruised merchant can only gawk as our boy commands him to follow. He refuses to let greedy scammers ruin the festival's atmosphere, marching the entire disruptive crew straight toward the village hall. Inside the council room, the merchants erupt in furious protest after being relegated to distant peripheral stalls far from the crowd. But our little general remains unfazed. Prime Plaza real estate belongs strictly to Evergreen residents, and he refuses to offer them a single inch. Desperate to salvage his profit margins, the dishonest trader slickly reaches into his vest to offer a bribe. Sounds slick, right? Not exactly. Our 9-year-old menace shuts it down instantly, threatening handcuffs while dropping former Count Sinclair's presence at the resort. Terrified of royal authority, the bully capitulates immediately. Just as the defeated thugs turn to leave, our boy halts them dead in their tracks. Where do you think you're going? He slaps down a mandatory fixed-price contract, forcing them to display visible price tags and completely crushing their illegal gouging scheme. With strict price regulations now enforced by armed patrols, Assistant Rocky takes detailed notes to apply the exact same policy across every incoming vendor. Honestly, watching our boy run this territory like a seasoned administrative mastermind is a masterclass in governance. Before they can celebrate another tactical victory, Rocky delivers unexpected news. The former lord has requested an immediate private audience with both our young general and Edelyn before dinner. Can this celebration really pass without hidden political tension behind closed doors? Heading over to the Grand Mansion, our young general speculates about the former lord's mysterious visitor. Could this be another heavy spender to exploit for territory growth? Edelyn can only sigh as our 9-year-old menace rushes through the doors, his mind already calculating potential profit margins. Stepping inside the private chamber, the duo offers a formal greeting, fully expecting an imperial aristocrat. But as they look toward the lounge, a strange horned silhouette rests comfortably on the couch. Sounds routine, right? Not exactly. That should have been a royal envoy. Instead, sitting on the sofa is a heavily armored dwarf casually waving hello. What crazy new commercial tactics will this dwarf unlock for Evergreen? And that's where the story is currently at. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe because I'll be posting new chapters as soon as they come out. See you in the next one.